Chapter 86. In a misty swamp, three wretched figures escaped from it. Huff! Chun-Shun panted heavily and looked back at the swamp behind him. A large number of zombies were wandering around there, but there were no signs of them leaving the swamp. It was as if there was some kind of restriction in the swamp that prevented these zombies from leaving the swamp. We're finally out. Wu Quan looked like he had just survived a disaster and was overjoyed. 5 people entered the swamp, and only 3 of them made it out in the end. It had to be said, this was something to be thankful for. If they were surrounded by such a large number of zombies, even if they had 2 or 3 times the number of zombies, they would still be wiped out. It was not easy to get out of the swamp now. Su Ziqing had the same thought. There was still a trace of fear on her delicate face. Those zombies looked really disgusting. As a girl, she could not help but feel uncomfortable seeing them. At this time, they were in a valley. Chun-Shun took out the map he got from the mission NPC and looked at it carefully. After that, he combined it with the scene in front of him and finally smiled. According to the map, this should be where the mission target is. After that, he looked at the map again and finally pointed in a direction and said, "The map shows that we should be there if we go this way. Then let's go quickly and finish the mission earlier so that there won't be any trouble." Wu Quan did not want to stay a moment longer. "Follow me." They walked in the valley. After learning their lesson from the zombies, they were much more cautious this time. They paid attention to the wind and grass around them at all times, afraid that a group of monsters would suddenly appear. However, in the end, the system's message came as expected. They did not encounter anything that worried them and could not help but breathe a sigh of relief. Instead, they looked ahead. There were 7 bronze pillars, arranged in an irregular pattern. Each bronze pillar was as thick as 2 people hugging it and about 5 or 6 meters tall. They were tightly connected to the hard ground, and there were strange patterns engraved on the pillars. On the ground between the 7 bronze pillars, there was a pattern that looked like a 7-pointed star formation. There were spots of dark red remaining, and it looked quite strange. You found a mysterious altar. Looking at the scene before them, a notification popped up in their minds. Chun-Shun said, "This is the mysterious altar that the NPC mentioned. As long as we put the item on the altar, the mission will be completed." This altar looks a little strange. Could there be something bad sealed inside? Wu Quan looked at the 7-star altar and had a bad premonition. According to the games that he had played in the past, he had tried to make a judgment. Usually, such places were sealed with some kind of great devil. Chun-Shun said, "We're already here. Are we going to give up? Besides, this is just a game. Even if something is released, it's just a slightly bigger boss. There's nothing to worry about." Chun-Shun is right. It's just a game. Are you taking it seriously? Su Ziqing rolled her eyes at Wu Quan, speechless. Hearing this, Wu Quan also reacted. This game was too realistic, and he was unknowingly sucked into it. That was right. At the end of the day, this was just a game, and they were only players. The most important thing now was to complete the mission. As for the rest, there was no need to think too much about it. Thinking of this, Wu Quan immediately reached a consensus with the 2 of them. At last, the 3 of them walked directly into the range of the bronze pillar. Looking at the dark red color of the 7-star, there seemed to be a lingering smell of blood. Chun-Shun and Su Ziqing could not help but have a bad feeling. However, the 2 of them quickly banished this feeling. "Take out the item." As Chun-Shun spoke, he took out many bottles and jars from the package. Su Ziqing and Wu Quan did the same. Soon, dozens of bottles and jars were placed on the ground. According to the prompt of the mission, we just need to pour the collected monster blood into this 7-star, and the mission will be completed. Then let's do it. Although Su Ziqing was a girl, she had a swift and decisive personality. She directly unscrewed one of the jars and poured the liquid inside onto the 7-star. Then, Chun-Shun and Wu Quan did the same. The whole process took only a few minutes. The monster blood they had collected had all been poured. The originally dried-up 7-star on formation was now completely soaked in blood, and a strange aura was spreading. Soon, a faint red mist rose from the 7-star radiance. The moment the patterns engraved on the 7 bronze pillars came into contact with the red mist, they also seemed to be contaminated by blood and turned bright red. Gurgle, gurgle. The red liquid was rolling. The ground of the valley also seemed to be trembling slightly. Qinshan and the others instinctively took a few steps back and left the range of the seven-star formation. The moment they filled it with blood, the mission status had been completed. However, now, no one was paying attention to the mission, but their eyes were firmly fixed on the bronze pillars and the seven-star formation. Click! The sky suddenly darkened and purple lightning flashed in the sky. Immediately after, a purple thunderbolt as thick as a baby's arm suddenly struck in the direction of the seven-star formation. In an instant, the blood mist rolled. When it encountered the purple thunderbolt, a lot of the blood mist dissipated instantly. But soon, the seven-star formation exuded a terrifying aura. On the 7 bronze pillars, the blood-colored thunderbolt lingered and did not dissipate, competing with the purple thunderbolt in the sky. That terrifying aura made Qinshan and the others palpitate. Su Ziqing stammered and said, "We seem to have really unlocked some great seal. The mission has been completed. If the situation is not right, we will leave immediately." Qinshan also looked pale, but it was useless to regret now. The mission had been completed. Logically speaking, leaving now was the best choice. However, the scene in front of him made him want to see what was going on. Hearing this, Su Ziqing and Wu Quan did not say much. The scene of the purple thunderbolt and the blood-colored thunderbolt confronting each other was something that they had never seen before. It even made them forget the fear in the depths of their hearts. Rumble. The seven-star formation suddenly cracked and the whole valley shook violently. A withered hand suddenly stretched out of the crack and black mist gushed out of the crack and entangled with the blood-colored mist. In an instant, it turned into a strange black and red color. At the same time, an extremely evil aura filled the air. "Let's go." The terrifying aura woke them up and the crazy warning in their hearts made them dare not stay any longer. Just when the 3 of them wanted to retreat, the blood-black mist, like a rising tide, swept the whole valley in an instant. It also completely swallowed them. Chapter 87. Cold Mountain Village. Qin Shujian suddenly felt his mind throbbing, as if something bad was about to happen. The higher the realm, the more he believed in this kind of feeling. Before he could think too much, a system message appeared. Heaven and earth have changed. A strange person has broken the seal, releasing the ancient demon. Note: killing or sealing the demon will be rewarded by the heaven and earth. Demon. Qin Shujian was startled. He didn't know what the demon was, but it definitely wasn't something simple. Maybe it was a great demon that could destroy the heaven and earth. Or else, the system wouldn't give him a notification. Sure enough, wherever the players go, they are a disaster. What kind of demon has been released? Qin Shujian shook his head helplessly. The current him. He only wanted to peacefully develop. He wanted to kill players and accumulate life force. Then, he wanted to steadily break through the shackles of the basic realm and strive to be at the forefront of all the players. Originally, Qin Shujian planned to attack the Undying Plains in 2 days. Now that the ancient wretch had suddenly joined the fray, there were undoubtedly many more variables. I don't know where the demon that broke the seal is. If it is in the stone forest, then it will be troublesome. Cold Mountain Village was located in the boundary of Cold Mountain. If the demon was really born in Cold Mountain, Qin Shujian was willing to bet that it would cause a huge commotion. There was no reason for him not to notice it. Only if it wasn't in the boundary of Cold Mountain would he not be able to notice it. But there was one thing. Qin Shujian was certain of one thing. That is, the demon that broke the seal was definitely in the ordinary realm. Otherwise, there was no reason for the system to give him a notification, and he wouldn't be able to sense the threat from the unseen world. Men. Thinking of this, Qin Shujian suddenly shouted, "Village head." A bandit answered and came forward. Qin Shujian said, "Send a message to Niu Feng. Tell him to pay close attention to the stone forest to see if there are any abnormal movements. If there are, immediately report to me. Also, tell the martial arts hall master and the intelligence hall master to come here." "I understand." The bandit immediately retreated. Very soon, Zheng Feng and Wang Taizhu arrived one after the other. "Master! Master!" Zheng Feng, and Wang Taizhu cupped their hands in greeting. Qin Shujian also regained his composure and said, "Sit down first." Yes. The two of them sat down. I suddenly had a sudden impulse. I'm afraid that something bad has happened. Has the information hall received any news? Qin Shujian looked at Wang Taizhu and asked calmly. Hearing this, Wang Taizhu shook his head. There's no news for now. On the other side, Zhang Fang's expression became more solemn as he said in a deep voice, "This old man has heard that powerhouses with profound realms have their own whims. The chief's cultivation base is already one of the best in the ordinary realm. Now that he has a sudden impulse, I'm afraid something bad is going to happen." After all, he had stayed in the sect for a period of time. He had a better understanding of sudden inspiration than anyone else. If other people heard this, they might not take it seriously, but Zhang Fang believed it without a doubt. The information hall's people should speed up the collection of information. I want to know what happened in the ordinary realm as soon as possible. This subordinate obeys. Wang Taizhu nodded in response. Seeing this, Qin Shujian did not say anything more. He did not reveal too much about the evil demon. There were some things that he did not want to show too much of a difference to avoid unnecessary trouble. From Zheng Fang and Wang Tieju's expressions, it could be seen. The two of them did not receive any information about the birth of the evil demon. It could be seen. He was the only one who could receive information from the system. Or rather, among the NPCs, he was the only one. But among the players, Qin Shujian could not guarantee too much. After all, in the eyes of the NPCs, in a sense, the players were also a group of cheaters. After that, Qin Shujian said again, regarding the expansion of the Liang Mountain stronghold, the martial arts hall will increase their efforts. I want the manpower of the Liang Mountain stronghold to at least double in half a month. This old man understands. I have already sent people to send messages to the various villages. I believe there will be a reply soon. Zhang Fang's old face smiled slightly and said confidently, they have no reason to refuse the conditions offered by the Liang Mountain stronghold. In this era where human lives were worthless, the most valuable thing was human, and the least valuable thing was also human. If a portion of the people joined the Liang Mountain stronghold, they would be able to reduce the tribute. For many people, this was a good deal. Moreover, joining the Liang Mountain stronghold was not the same as throwing away their lives. If they did well in the Liang Mountain stronghold, they might even be able to bring some shade to the village. So, after the news was spread, many villages had already responded in agreement. However, due to the importance of the population and the need to make reasonable arrangements, there was no definite reply for the time being. According to Zheng Fang's estimation, at least 1 or 2 days, at most 3 to 5 days. What should come, would come. On the other side, when Qin Shujian received the system message, as expected, the players in the Undying Plains also received the system message at the first moment. There is a change in the heavens and the earth. A mutant has unlocked the seal and released an ancient demon. The demonic energy has contaminated the Undying Plains, causing negative effects to all living creatures. During the period of demonic energy contamination, the experience gained by all players in the Undying Plains will be reduced by 20%, and their physical attributes will be weakened by 20%. Due to the birth of an evil demon, the heavens and the earth have sensed the disaster. All players' damage to the evil demon will be increased by 20%, and the experience gained from killing the evil demon will be increased by 20%. Note: the demonic disaster has begun. All players can receive the corresponding mission in the novice village. Note: during the demonic disaster, any player's realm will drop by 200% upon death. The densely packed system message immediately caused an uproar among all the players. All the players in the Undying Plains felt the deep malice from this game, as well as the deep hatred towards the players who had unlocked the seal and released the evil demon. Which bastard did this? Why would he release an evil demon for no reason? Is there something wrong with his brain? Reward: we must reward the player who released the evil demon. I want to kill him cleanly. 1 death and 2 realms will drop. How can we play this game? Many players groaned helplessly in their hearts. They had not even faced the evil demon, and their attributes had already been weakened to a terrifying extent. Don't look at the increase in damage to the evil demon, as well as the increase in experience. It seemed to offset the negative attributes of the weakening. However, these additional attributes were only useful when facing the evil demon. In other words, if they were to kill other monsters that did not belong to the evil demon, they would still be completely weakened. Not to mention, one death and they would drop 2 realms. Originally, one death and a drop of 1 realm was already driving people crazy. Now, 1 death and a drop of 2 realms was even more terrible. Chapter 88. At the resurrection point in Novice Village, 17561, Chen Shun, Su Ziqing, and Wu Quan all stood in their spots, stunned. The sudden system message caught them completely off guard. The demon that broke the seal. Could it be? Shut up. Before Wu Quan could finish, Chen Shun immediately stopped him with a low voice. In an instant, Wu Quan immediately reacted and immediately shut his mouth. They all knew very well in their hearts. The demon that had been unsealed was most likely the monster that they had released in the heptagram formation. If they had known that completing the mission would cause such a huge impact, they would never have done it. There was no other reason. Once this news was leaked, there would be no place for them in Novice Village, 17561. Not to mention anything else. Just the angry players alone were enough to wipe them clean. Wu Quan couldn't help but shudder as he looked at the angry and gnashing players around him. He could not say it. He absolutely could not say it. After that, Wu Quan looked at his own attributes again and immediately wailed in his heart. Basic level 0. The large words were so dazzling. In other words, after being killed by the black and red fog, he directly fell to the 5th level. Half a month of hard work had all gone down the drain. Wu Quan's expression was ugly. He asked the two of them, "How much did your level drop?" Hearing this, Chen Shun and Su Ziqing also looked at their own attributes, and then their expressions turned ugly. "It's reset to 0. Me too." The 3 of them looked at each other, a bitter taste in their mouths. Obviously, the death penalty this time was not as simple as a drop of 5 levels. Even Chen Shun, who was at the 6th level of the martial arts, was reset to 0. This meant that they were reset to 0 only because they fell to the ground. Chen Chen's expression was gloomy, and he said coldly, "Go find that NPC. We're not done with him." At this point, how could he not know that he had been tricked by an NPC? He had been hunting geese all day long, but he was pecked in the eye by the geese. Chen Shun did not expect that an NPC in the game would give him such a ridiculous mission. He was completely screwed over, and it was the kind where he almost could not turn the situation around. Also, don't mention this mission to anyone, including Lan Shun and Di Yiming. Keep the final mission a secret. In the end, Chen Shun reminded. The 2 people he was talking about were the 2 players who died in the swamp. They belonged to the same team. However, the fewer people who knew about this, the better. Even if they were in the same team, there was no guarantee that someone would leak the news. Only the main culprits, Su Ziqing and Wu Quan, could be considered as grasshoppers on the same rope. There was no possibility of them leaking the news. Wu Quan and Su Ziqing also understood the importance of this matter and nodded in agreement. Subsequently, the 3 of them left the resurrection point and headed in a certain direction. The first thing they had to do now was first, he would settle the score with the NPC who issued the quest. In the shattered valley, black and red mist surged. On a throne made of countless skeletons sat a tall figure. He had withered arms, black bone armor, and only his head was left covered in bone armor. His eyes were burning with blue flames. He was like a skeleton king who had risen from hell. On the throne of bones, there was a bone sword, which was burning with dark red flames. Below the skeletons, there was a huge explosion. The zombie boss knelt there on one knee. His rotten face did not show any expression, but from the emotions he exuded, one could feel a strong sense of excitement and awe. After 1,000 years, I, the undead evil lord, have finally returned. The skeleton, who was also the undead evil lord, stroked the throne of bones with his withered hands and said to himself with emotion, "What a pity." He looked up at the sky. Outside the black and red mist, there was still purple lightning lingering. After all, this was the ordinary realm. Even if he was powerful, He could not violate the rules of heaven and earth. His realm was forcibly suppressed to the 10th level of the martial arts. Moreover, the higher the realm, the greater the suppression in the ordinary realm. This was because powerful existences were as dazzling as candlelight in the eyes of heaven and earth. It was difficult not to attract attention. It's good to stay in the ordinary realm. At least those old things will not dare to take risks. Wait until I sacrifice the life of this realm and break the shackles of the ordinary realm. This place will become my foundation. The blue flames in the undead evil lord's eyes burned brightly. He then chanted an incantation that was hard to understand. The black and red mist surged wildly, and a strange energy was being born. Then, the undead evil lord's chanting stopped. A blood-red rune appeared in his hand and suddenly expanded, embedding itself in the entire valley. Rumble. The mountain rocks shattered. The skeletons buried below seemed to have been given some kind of life and suddenly came to life. All the revived skeletons, like the zombie boss, knelt on one knee towards the undead evil lord and bowed their heads as if they were on a pilgrimage. Soon, thousands of skeletons were revived. The undead evil lord looked at the many kneeling skeletons. His withered hands suddenly ignited with red flames. Then the flames split into 5 and landed on 5 of the skeletons. Roar! As the red flames approached, the 5 skeletons were instantly covered in flames. The kneeling body could not help but stand up and let out a hoarse roar. At the same time, the originally dark eye sockets emitted a red light. It seemed there were flames dancing in them. A powerful aura was emitted from the 5 skeletons. The other skeletons that were kneeling on one knee trembled uncontrollably. The undead evil lord directly stood up from the skeleton throne. He held the hilt of the bone sword on the throne with one hand. The dark red flames flickered violently, but it did not hurt him at all. Immediately, the undead evil lord suddenly exerted force and completely pulled the bone sword out. Boom! A vast and evil aura erupted from the undead evil lord's body and swept out in an instant. Everywhere that was shrouded by the aura. The skeletons buried deep underground were all given life and struggled out from the soil. Some were in human form, some were in beast form, and some were even incomplete. After these skeletons were revived, like the other skeletons, they knelt on one knee in the direction of the undead evil lord. The undead evil lord pointed his sword to the sky. The blue flames in the bone armor mask surged. I am the undead evil lord. All the dead will be revived from their slumber and become my subjects in the undead domain. Now, listen to my instructions and kill all living creatures in the slaughter domain. Buzz! Suddenly, the skeletons that were kneeling on one knee got up and headed towards the outside world. They followed the undead evil lord's orders to kill all living creatures. Chapter 89. Many revived dead people rushed towards the undying plains. No matter if it was a player or something else, as long as it was a living thing, it couldn't escape being killed. What's going on? Where did so many skeletons come from? Damn it, this should be the demon disaster that the system talked about. Before, I didn't know what the undying plains meant, but now I finally understand. This is a kingdom of the dead. A group of 10 players was surrounded by dozens of skeletons and was having a difficult battle. And behind them, an endless stream of skeletons was rushing over. These skeletons weren't very strong. Most of them were only at the 2nd or 3rd level of the basic martial realm. For the current players, they weren't too hard to deal with. But not hard to deal with was based on the premise that there weren't many skeletons. 1 or 2 skeletons could be destroyed with a wave of the hand. 8 or 10 skeletons wouldn't be a problem. But if there were hundreds, thousands, or even more skeletons, it would be enough to make all the players despair. No matter if it was a player at the 5th or 6th level of the basic martial realm. No matter if they were strong or weak. As long as they were caught in the tide of skeletons, they would only end up being drowned. At this moment, on the undying plains, there were battles happening almost everywhere. At the border of the undying plains, a few ragged bandits were fighting with a group of skeletons. Those skeletons that weren't weak couldn't last more than 2 rounds in front of these bandits. They either had their arms or legs cut off. But as long as they didn't kill their heads, these skeletons would never stop attacking. Whoosh! A cold saber light cut a skeleton to pieces. Chan Ergu's aura of a 7th level of the basic martial realm exploded as he angrily shouted, "Retreat with me." Hearing this, the other bandits immediately moved closer to him. Chan Ergu took the lead. The broken saber in his hand was comparable to a divine weapon. His simple fighting skills were also terrifying. Any skeleton that came into contact with it would turn into a pile of broken bones. The current Chan Ergu. He was no longer a small bandit with the strength of a 1st level of the basic martial realm and almost zero intelligence. After the 2 advancements in the Cold Mountain Stronghold, he was already a 7th level of the basic martial realm expert. Not only that, he even entered the information hall and became a big boss. This time, he was ordered to bring people to investigate the details of the Immortal Plains, but not long after, they encountered the Devil Disaster. For safety's sake, he chose to retreat at the first moment. It was a pity. When they were about to leave the Undying Plains, they were still surrounded by these skeletons. However, Chan Ergu wasn't too worried. This was already the border of the Undying Plains. If they crossed a little more, they would enter the boundary of Liang Mountain. As long as he returned to Mount Liang, he believed that no matter how many of these weak skeletons came, they would all die. With Chan Ergu as the main force attacking the skeletons in front of them and the other bandits in the 6th stage of the martial realm assisting from the side, the numerous skeletons simply couldn't stop them. Very soon, with their combined strength, they were able to break out of the encirclement of the skeletons. When they crossed the border of the Immortal Plains and entered the boundary of Mount Liang, the pursuing skeletons all stopped in their tracks. Then, they swayed and turned to another direction. The Undying Evil Lord's order was to slaughter all the living beings in the Undying Plains. Therefore, as for the outside of the Undying Plains, without receiving orders, these skeletons wouldn't cross over. Seeing this, Chan Ergu secretly let out a sigh of relief. Although these skeletons weren't strong, there were simply too many of them. In that short period of time, he had almost used the strength of the 7th stage of the martial realm to the limit. Now that he relaxed, he even showed signs of exhaustion. Apart from him, the other bandits were about the same. It was worth rejoicing. Facing the encirclement of the skeletons, not a single bandit died. One had to know that this was different from players. If they died in the hands of these skeletons, then they would truly die and wouldn't have the chance to respawn. After a short period of recovery, Chan Ergu didn't dare to delay and immediately led his men back to report. Mount Liang Village. After knowing that the evil spirit had broken the seal, Qin Shujian couldn't do much before he was sure of the evil spirit's location. He could only wait for the information from the information hall. However, he didn't have to wait for long before Chan Ergu brought the news back to Mount Liang Village. Loyalty Hall. Qin Shujian sat in the main seat while Chan Ergu stood below him. Village head. For some unknown reason, a large number of skeletons revived in the Immortal Plains and killed any life they encountered. If we hadn't retreated quickly enough, I'm afraid we would have been left behind. Skeletons revived? Qin Shujian frowned. Then, Chan Ergu told him everything that happened at the Immortal Plains. After he finished speaking, Qin Shujian's expression became serious. A large number of skeletons revived. There were so many of them that it could be said that they were endless. He immediately linked this matter to the evil spirit. Moreover, he was almost 100% sure. Otherwise, there was no way to explain why such a situation would happen in the Immortal Plains. After a long while, Qin Shujian asked again, "You fought with those skeletons. Do you know what level their strength is?" "From what I can see, they are around the 2nd level of the basic martial realm. A few of them have reached the 3rd level of the basic martial realm. As for skeletons above the 3rd level, I didn't encounter them. However, I can't rule out the possibility of them being above the 3rd level." Chan Ergu pondered for a moment before continuing. "Moreover, I discovered that those skeletons can't leave the Immortal Plains. When we escaped from the Immortal Plains and entered Mount Liang, those skeletons didn't chase after us. Instead, they directly retreated." "I understand. You can leave now." Qin Shujian waved his hand. Chan Ergu immediately left. In the Loyalty Hall, Qin Shujian was left alone in deep thought. He didn't have the opportunity to see the evil spirit's strength. However, just by looking at how it revived so many skeletons, he knew that it was a powerful expert. He was also worried about whether the shackles of the ordinary realm could suppress the evil spirit. Moreover, even if it could suppress it, the evil spirit in the 10th level of the basic martial realm was not something that other people in the 10th level of the basic martial realm could compare with. Qin Shujian wasn't that naive to think that. Everyone was in the 10th level of the basic martial realm, and their strength was similar. He himself was a living example of this. As someone who could be called an ancient evil spirit, Qin Shujian didn't believe that the evil spirit would be inferior to him. If they were talking about strength, the evil spirit's strength was most likely stronger than his. However, Qin Shujian wasn't too discouraged. Everything was just his own guess. Moreover, as long as he had enough life force, he was confident that he could grow to the point where he wouldn't even be afraid of the evil spirit. Right now, the evil spirit hasn't shown itself yet. The skeletons are a big problem. If the players and NPCs in the immortal planes can't resist them and are completely annihilated by these skeletons, it's possible that these things will leave the immortal planes. At that time, it'll really be a big problem. Qin Shujian's gaze was gloomy as he lightly tapped his finger. The Mount Liang stronghold's strength was strong. However, its weakness was also very obvious. There were too few people. Chapter 90. Less than 2 days had passed. Qin Shujian did not receive any news from the information hall. Instead, he saw Gu Feng again. In the territory of Mount Liang, a convoy of the Chamber of Commerce was slowly approaching. There were many sacks and boxes on each carriage. The wheels of the carriages ran over the ground, leaving deep grooves. Not long after the convoy of the Chamber of Commerce entered the territory of Mount Liang, Qin Shujian received the news. Compared to the light cavalry from before, this time, the convoy was too big of a target. Brother Gu, how did you come so quickly this time? Qin Shujian looked at the convoy that stopped behind Gu Feng with a warm smile on his face. Gu Feng cupped his hands and said with a faint smile, I naturally have to pay attention to Fort Master Qin's matters. These are the supplies that Fort Master Qin needs. Please check them. Haha, no problem, no problem. Qin Shujian laughed, but there was an inexplicable meaning in his eyes. He had never told Gu Feng his name. This time, Gu Feng called him Fort Master Qin. It was obvious that he had already investigated the details of Mount Liang. Seeing Qin Shujian coming forward, Gu Feng stepped aside and let him check. 5,000 taels of silver to buy food is enough for 500 people for a year. Even if there are 1,000 people, it will definitely be enough to support them for half a year. Brother Gu, you are too considerate, Qin Shujian said with a smile. After a simple check, he asked the other bandits to move the supplies up the mountain. For the bandits, who were at least in the 6th stage of the basic realm, the food that was incomparably heavy in the eyes of ordinary people could be easily lifted up. Soon, all the food was moved up, and the convoy was empty. Then, Gu Feng took a long and flat brocade box from a person beside him and handed it over. I have heard that Fort Master Qin's saber skills have reached perfection. This is a grade 5 refined saber. Do you like it? A grade 5 refined saber. Qin Shujian's eyes lit up. He directly took the brocade box. When he touched it, it sank slightly. Then, he directly opened the brocade box. Inside, there was a 5 feet long heavy saber lying quietly. There seemed to be a cold light flowing on the silver-white saber. There was also a murderous aura coming from it. At this moment, people felt that this was not a saber, but a weapon that could kill thousands of people. Good saber. Qin Shujian immediately grabbed the long saber. A strange feeling welled up in his heart, making him involuntarily praise it. Even if he hadn't gone through actual combat, just by looking at the gleaming blade, he knew that the tiger head saber couldn't be compared to it. Gu Feng said, the name of this saber is Thousand Mountain Blood. It was once owned by a powerful man with a fierce reputation. In the end, someone obtained it and pawned it to the carrier trading company. In my opinion, this saber is most suitable for Fort Master Qin. Thousand Snow? Qin Shujian was surprised. He muttered, That's a pretty good name for the blade. Hee hee, this isn't snow, it's blood. Thousand Mountain Blood. Qin Shujian raised his eyebrows slightly. Just from the name alone, he could smell the scent of blood. However, this saber was to his liking. Brother Gu, thank you for your consideration. I owe you a favor for this matter. Qin Shujian kept the Thousand Mountain Blood, and his expression became solemn. No matter what misunderstandings he had with the carrier trading company, since they could let bygones be bygones, he couldn't make an enemy. The smile on Gu Feng's face deepened. He then asked the person beside him to pass him a package. These are some of Fort Master Qin's books. As for cultivation techniques, because they are more valuable, there aren't many in the ordinary realm branch. We could only collect one for Fort Master Qin and put it in here. Thank you. Qin Shujian gestured for the bandit beside him to take the package. He then cupped his hands in thanks. No need to thank me. This is what I promised Fort Master Qin. It's also a deal between your village and the carrier trading company. I naturally have to handle it properly. When Gu Feng said this, the smile on his face suddenly disappeared. He said gravely, I came to your village this time because I have another matter to discuss with Fort Master Qin. Let's talk upstairs. Seeing the other party's serious expression, Qin Shujian's smile faded, and he directly invited the other party to Cold Mountain Stronghold. Okay. Gu Feng nodded and ordered the people behind him. Wait for me here? Yes. In the Hall of Loyalty. Qin Shujian and Gu Feng sat down. Brother Gu, you said you have something to discuss. What is it? Fort Master Qin, have you heard of the demon disaster? Demon disaster? Qin Shujian was startled. Instinctively, he thought of the demons that broke out of the seal and the many skeletons that revived on the undying plains. Gu Feng said, the demon disaster has a long history. It's just that there hasn't been any demon disaster in recent years. It's normal that Fort Master Qin doesn't know about it. To talk about the demon disaster, I'm afraid we have to start from the ordinary realm. I'd like to hear the details. To talk about the ordinary realm, Gu Feng pondered for a moment before speaking slowly. With his words, Qin Shujian finally understood what the ordinary realm was. Heaven and earth were nameless. No one knew what the name of this heaven and earth was, and no one went to investigate this question. But there was once an expert who discovered that this heaven and earth was always in a state of expansion. At the beginning, the heaven and earth was only the size of a city or a prefecture. Later on, it grew to a country or two. Even to the end, it grew to hundreds of millions of miles. It could be said that until now, the heaven and earth had never stopped expanding. Every time the heaven and earth slowly expanded, it would take thousands of years of gestation before it would finally add a region of varying size. This was like a puzzle. In the original gap, there was a new piece of the puzzle, causing the heaven and earth to become even more vast and complete. However, what was different from the jigsaw puzzle was that the expansion of this world seemed to be endless. The new heaven and earth gave birth to many treasures, attracting the covetous eyes of other experts. But the new heaven and earth were the most fragile. If an expert moved forward and attacked, it would definitely be completely destroyed. Therefore, in order to prevent this kind of situation from happening, a kind of shackle was formed in this new heaven and earth. A kind of shackle that suppressed everyone's realm to a certain level and made the new heaven and earth relatively safe. This was the origin of the ordinary realm. Rather than saying that the shackles of the ordinary realm restricted cultivators, it was better to say that the heaven and earth protected this heaven and earth. But when things reach an extreme, they can only move in the opposite direction. The heaven and earth gave birth to a new heaven and earth, which represented endless vitality. Correspondingly, it would give birth to things that existed for the sake of destruction and destruction. These things were called evil demons. Evil demons existed for the sake of destroying living beings and even destroying everything. They could infect living beings and turn them into evil demons, causing even more destruction. This was the demon disaster. Chapter 91. The ordinary realm we're in now was a newly formed 1,000 years ago. It was incorporated into the Baiyun Prefecture by the Dazhao nation. Gu Feng said slowly in the Loyalty Hall. It's said that when the ordinary realm was established 1,000 years ago, demons were born and tried to wreak havoc in the world. However, they were defeated and sealed by experts. Who would have thought that the demons would break out of the seal and create a demon disaster in the Undying Plains? If the demons are allowed to absorb enough power and leave the ordinary realm, it will be a great disaster. Therefore, the carrier trading company hopes to ask Cold Mountain Village to help us fight the demons. Fight the demons together. Qin Shujian didn't answer immediately. He needed some time to digest what Gu Feng had said. From what Gu Feng said, he could understand how the demons came to be. He could also understand how the ordinary realm was formed. The world expanded endlessly. This was beyond the comprehension of ordinary people. However, from Gu Feng's expression, it was obvious that this wasn't a big secret to others. At least from Gu Feng's perspective. A moment later, Qin Shujian said, "It's not that I'm belittling myself, but with the carrier trading company's foundation, you shouldn't need Cold Mountain Village. I believe that your company doesn't lack experts above the basic realm." The carrier trading company could spread throughout the 13 prefectures of the Great Zhao Nation. He didn't believe that they didn't have experts above the basic realm. Gu Feng wanted Cold Mountain Village to deal with the demon disaster. Did he want to use him as cannon fodder? Or did he have other plans? Thinking of this, Qin Shujian's eyes gradually turned cold. Gu Feng saw the coldness in his eyes and quickly explained, "Don't misunderstand. Fort Master Qin. The carrier trading company does have experts above the basic realm. However, in the ordinary realm, even if they're above the basic realm, they're only equivalent to the 10th stage of the basic realm. Fort Master Qin was able to unify Cold Mountain and Chaotic Stone Forest. Your strength can be considered top-notch in the ordinary realm." At this point, he saw that the other party's expression had eased a little, so he couldn't help but pause before continuing. He continued, "Moreover, the demons in the ordinary realm will also be suppressed by the laws of heaven and earth. They can't break the shackles of the ordinary realm, so Fort Master Qin can rest assured. In addition, if Cold Mountain Village is willing to help, the carrier trading company is willing to pay a certain amount of compensation." What reward? A true stage cultivation technique? True rank? That's right. Once you break through the barrier of the mortal realm, you will be in the true realm. Not enough. Not enough. Gu Feng could not help but be stunned. He almost thought that he had misheard. In his opinion, it was impossible for any basic realm expert to refuse a truth tier cultivation technique. After all, in order to break through the basic martial realm, one would need a corresponding cultivation technique. Otherwise, it was very likely that he would be shackled by the cultivation method and be trapped in his current realm. Gu Feng's original plan was, even if Qin Shujian didn't immediately kneel down and lick his boots, there was no reason for him to refuse. For a moment, his mind was spinning wildly. Very soon, Gu Feng thought that he had figured out the crux of the matter. He couldn't help but sigh. So Fort Master Qin also had his own fortuitous encounter. No wonder Cold Mountain Stronghold could be promoted to a second-grade organization. Since Fort Master is not willing to accept the truth rank cultivation technique, what kind of reward do you want? Feel free to state it. How much is a true tier cultivation technique worth? The price of a true tier cultivation technique is usually between 10,000 to 50,000, depending on the nature of the cultivation technique. Gu Feng hesitated for a moment, but in the end, he still answered truthfully. Qin Shujian said, "I think the carrier trading company would not give you the worst true tier cultivation technique. Then let's go with the market price and convert it to 20,000. What is the price of a 9th grade weapon and a treasured armor? The price of a weapon is between 10 to 50, treasured armor is slightly more expensive, between 20 to 80. How about this? Out of the 20,000, 11,000 can be exchanged for 500 9th grade broadswords and 500 9th grade treasured armors. The remaining 9,000 can be exchanged for food and clothing. Is there a problem?" Qin Shujian immediately made a decision. Hearing this, Gu Feng's face stiffened. It was very obvious that Qin Shujian's request was completely out of his expectations. If Brother Gu agrees, I will definitely not go back on my word, and will definitely cooperate with the carrier trading company. If it is really difficult, then I can understand. Qin Shujian said with a faint smile, asking for a sky-high price and paying as low as possible. Since Gu Feng came to him for this matter, it proved that the demon disaster had a huge impact or hidden danger on the carrier trading company. It had to be dealt with, although the demon disaster was also a threat to the Cold Mountain village. But when comparing the two sides, the one who spoke first would naturally be at a disadvantage. Moreover, after confirming that the demon's strength did not exceed the 10th tier of the martial realm, Qin Shujian was not so anxious. He had a trump card in his hand. He was not afraid of anything. The trump card in his hand was naturally his own strength. Gu Feng was silent for a while, then he clenched his teeth and nodded. Okay, I can make the decision and agree to this. When the time comes, the corresponding materials will be sent to the Cold Mountain village. I just hope that when the carrier trading company prepares to deal with the demon disaster, Stockade Master Qin will act as agreed. Of course. Then I would like to ask Stockade Master Qin to make a detailed list of the materials so that I can send people to prepare. After all, 20,000 is not a small amount, and it will take some time to prepare. That's easy. Qin Shujian immediately sent someone to inform Zheng Feng to come. Not long after, Zheng Feng came directly and said respectfully, Stockade Master, Brother Gu, this is Hall Master Zheng of the Cold Mountain Village's drill hall. If you have anything to say, you can discuss it with him. With that, Qin Shujian briefly introduced Gu Feng to Zheng Feng. Then he sat there and let Zheng Feng and Gu Feng negotiate. As the drill hall master, Zheng Feng also had the title of military counselor. His understanding of the Cold Mountain village was no less than that of the stockade master. Although he was surprised that the Cold Mountain village had inexplicably gained 20,000 taels of silver, but when he thought of Qin Shujian's methods, he did not have too many doubts. It did not take long. After a simple discussion, the two of them slapped the table and made a decision. After the matter was settled, Gu Feng stood up and said, Stockade Master Qin, the matter of the demon disaster is urgent. I still have to go back and report, so I will take my leave first. Take care. Hall Master Zheng, please send me off. Yes. Zheng Feng nodded. Then he looked at Gu Feng and said, Please. Gu Feng first saluted Qin Shujian and then replied politely, Please. Then, the two of them left the loyalty hall at the same time. Demon disaster. Qin Shujian watched the two of them leave and recalled his conversation with Gu Feng. Whether the carrier trading company would come or not, he could not stand by and do nothing about the demon disaster. Now that someone had given him some benefits before he had to take action, he had no reason to refuse. When the blade and armor arrived, Qin Shujian believed the Cold Mountain village would definitely be upgraded and their strength would increase greatly. Chapter 92. In the room, Qin Shujian took out Gu Feng's package and opened it. There were 3 thick books and 1 thin book lying quietly in the room. He was the first to pick up the thin book. Then he opened it directly. You've learned the mortal level medium iron casting technique. Then, Qin Shujian felt the skin on his body squirming slightly as if it had become tighter. Thwart training technique? Feeling the changes in his body and the information related to the iron casting technique in his mind, he understood. Speaking of thwart training techniques, among the many techniques that Qin Shujian practiced, the rock technique could be considered as half a thwart training technique. As for the body forging scripture, it fully developed the body's potential instead of improving it unilaterally. So, speaking of thwart training techniques, the iron casting technique was the first thwart training technique he got. Regarding this, Qin Shujian was satisfied. For him who could directly deduce techniques with his life source, the level of the technique was not the main problem. Even if it was a mortal level low-level technique, he could still deduce it. What really satisfied Qin Shujian was the type of technique. This point, it was not something that could be obtained by deduction alone. This was also the reason why he had flatly refused Gu Feng's request for a true rank cultivation technique. According to Qin Shujian's own estimation, when his technique was deduced to the 11th level and broke the shackles of the basic martial arts, there was a high probability that the technique would be promoted to the truth level. After learning the iron casting technique, Qin Shujian did not pay too much attention to it. The main thing was that he did not have enough life source. Everything else was useless. Then he looked at the books of the other 3 techniques. Records of the strange stories of the Dazhao country, world knowledge, and the map of the Dazhao country he wanted. It wasn't until he opened the last book that Qin Shujian realized it wasn't a book at all. It was a huge map that had been folded up. Different from other techniques, these books did not directly appear in his mind like other techniques. Instead, he needed to look at them bit by bit and memorize them. Qin Shujian had expected this. Half an hour later, he closed the map in his hand and finally had a general understanding of the Great Zhao country. The 13 prefectures of the Great Zhao are truly vast and boundless. Not to mention the 13 prefectures of Great Zhao, just the Baiyun prefecture alone was hundreds of millions of territories. He only managed to find his current location on the map. The North Cloud Manor had a total of 5 regions and 3,600 cities. The ordinary realm he was in was located at the border of the northern spiritual region of the Northern Cloud Mansion. Because it was a newly established ordinary realm, it was marked with a small word on the map. Brilliant Star Ordinary Realm. The Great Zhao Kingdom. Qin Shujian gripped the map tightly. His eyes shone brightly. Previously, he did not know how strong the Great Zhao country was. Now then, finally, he knew. The Baiyun prefecture alone had 3,600 cities. Similar to the Starlight Ordinary Realm where he was from, there were quite a few in the Northern Cloud Mansion. Just as Gu Feng said, the world was expanding at every moment. Perhaps the Baiyun prefecture was not that big in the beginning, but after countless years of changes, it was enough to grow to a terrifying extent. Originally, Qin Shujian understood that the cold mountain village could only dominate the ordinary realm with its strength. It would not be a big deal outside of the ordinary realm. But now, looking at it, even if he did not know much about the forces outside of the ordinary realm, he could understand that the cold mountain village was really as small as an ant. Qin Shujian did not believe it. With such a vast territory, it was impossible to produce enough powerhouses. At the same time, he once again had a clear understanding of the carrier trading company that spanned across the 13 prefectures of Great Zhao and had influence all over the world. No matter how weak it was more than 100 times stronger than his cold mountain village. However, the carrier trading company was powerful as a whole, not just an ordinary branch. From his conversation with Gu Feng, he could tell that the carrier trading company probably had a large number of branches. If spread out like this, even if each branch was powerful, it would not be to the point of defying the heavens. Just talking about the branch in the Starlight Ordinary Realm, their strength was probably not much stronger. After that, Qin Shujian opened the records of Great Zhao Nation's strange news. It recorded some rare treasures, as well as rumors that certain treasures existed in certain places. Because there were too many things written in it, he only flipped through it a few times before throwing it to the side. These things, he would slowly read them when he had time in the future. When he picked up the last book, World Knowledge, Qin Shujian flipped through the contents a few times before his expression finally became serious. One of the contents recorded the origin of the ordinary realm. Without hesitation, he directly flipped to the corresponding page. The contents recorded in it were not much different from what Gu Feng had told him about the origin of the ordinary realm. However, the records were more detailed and more complete. Before the ordinary realm was completely formed, there were no so-called shackles. Demons were also born at this time. It was only when the ordinary realm was gradually formed and stabilized that a kind of rule and restriction slowly formed. After the ordinary realm was completely stabilized, there was a shackle that could not be higher than the 10th stage of the basic realm. However, any expert that surpassed the basic realm would be forcefully suppressed when they entered the ordinary realm. However, the ordinary realm would not always be the ordinary realm. Instead, as time passed, the space would become more stable and absorb more heaven and earth energy, gradually unshackling this kind of shackle. First flourishing, then declining to flourishing. Looking at the records of the ordinary realm, Qin Shujian inexplicably appeared in his mind. Without a doubt, the ordinary realm that had just been born and had not yet fully formed was the strongest. However, as it slowly stabilized, there would be more restrictions. Only after a long time would the restrictions be slowly unshackled. Finally, at the end of the records of the ordinary realm, Qin Shujian finally obtained the information he wanted. That was, the shackles of the ordinary realm were not unbreakable. When the ordinary realm was born with a peerless talent, there was hope to break the shackles of the ordinary realm. Such an existence was called the Realm Master. Realm Master? Qin Shujian muttered these two words. Unfortunately, when he wanted to find more records, he only flipped to other contents. Obviously, in this book of world knowledge, there were not many details about the Realm Master. However, he at least knew one thing. That was, the shackles of the ordinary realm could really be broken. In this way, it also indirectly proved that his initial guess and decision was not wrong. Suppressing his restless heart, Qin Shujian flipped through the contents a few more times. This book of world knowledge was too thick. If he did not look at the contents and just flipped through it casually, it would be very difficult to find what he wanted. While seriously flipping through the contents, he finally found what he was looking for on the third page: division and promotion of forces. Chapter 93. There weren't many records about forces. Qin Shujian only used 10 minutes to finish reading all of them. He also had a general understanding of the division of forces and the promotion method. It was similar to what he had guessed at the beginning. Forces were divided into 9 levels from low to high. Forces below level 1 were also divided into strong and weak forces, but they weren't in the mainstream at all. As for the requirements for promotion, Qin Shujian was surprised. Luck. The requirement for promotion was to have enough luck. The way to increase luck was either to conquer the world and use the people's hearts to increase it, or to collect innate spiritual objects. The so-called innate spiritual objects were treasures that were born naturally from heaven and earth and contained the luck of heaven and earth. But what surprised Qin Shujian was that the ordinary realm was actually the place that gave birth to the most innate spiritual objects, even if this referred to the newly born ordinary realm. Rubbing his chin with his palm, Qin Shujian fell into deep thought. Innate spiritual objects can increase luck. Judging from the situation of the brilliant star ordinary realm being born for so long, I'm afraid that some of the innate spiritual objects have already been plundered. After all, which force didn't want such things? But what's written in the book shouldn't be complete. Luck is not only obtained from innate spiritual objects and the establishment of a country, but also from destroying other forces. Qin Shujian thought of the 2 promotions of Cold Mountain Village and had a general idea. He didn't know if the records in the book weren't complete, or if this method only applied to Cold Mountain Village. Or rather, it only applied to himself. As for the promotion of each force, it wasn't as Qin Shujian had originally imagined, where it would increase the realm of all the people in the force. Promotion to a level 1 force could only increase 500 people at a time. Promotion to a level 2 force could only increase 1,000 people at a time. Level 3 was 2,000, level 4 was 5,000, and level 5 was 10,000. After that, there were no records. This also destroyed Qin Shujian's idea of wantonly recruiting people and then taking advantage of the next promotion to raise everyone's realm in one fell swoop. After digesting the information he wanted, he solemnly put these 3 things away. For now, for him, these 3 things couldn't be of much use. But in the future, it would still be of great help. What Qin Shujian cared about the most right now was breaking the shackles of the ordinary realm. I should be considered a native of the brilliant star ordinary realm. He suddenly felt uncertain. The term native living beings meant that after the first generation of people migrated to the brilliant star ordinary realm, the next generation would be considered the native living beings of the brilliant star ordinary realm. Qin Shujian had also tried to chat with the other bandits who had advanced in their realms, but they did not have many memories of the past. This kind of person, it was more like the game world had created it out of thin air, rather than being born naturally. However, Qin Shujian wasn't sure if he felt the same way. The waters of this game world are a little deep. He suddenly sighed. The more he understood, the more profound this world felt. He had the urge to immediately understand everything, but reality made him understand that this was simply impossible. At least, he didn't have the ability to do so now. If I can't even get rid of the crisis of the players, then no matter how much I think about it, it's useless to think about it. Qin Shujian shook his head, forcefully suppressing the doubts in his heart. Then he directly laid on the bed, closed his eyes, and fell asleep. The next day, Qin Shujian got up from the bed. He didn't wake up naturally, but was woken up by someone. He angrily got up from the bed in a hurry, opened the door abruptly, and glared at the bandit whose hand was hanging in the air with his slightly red eyes, and said in a muffled voice, "What's the matter?" The bandit was stared at, and his heart suddenly became uneasy. After hearing Qin Shujian's words, he immediately stammered, "Master. Master Wang said that he has something to discuss with you." While speaking, he had been secretly paying attention to the changes in Qin Shujian's expression. His master had a temper when he woke up, and after a few bandits had been beaten up in a row, the news had already spread. There was no need to. No one dared to rashly disturb the master's sleep anymore. But when he thought of Wang Tieju's order, the bandit felt powerless in his heart. He was afraid of Qin Shujian, but he couldn't disobey Wang Tieju's order. Just as the bandit was nervous, Qin Shujian's anger in his heart gradually subsided a lot. Finally, he waved his hand weakly and said, "Let him wait in the loyalty hall. I'll go there after washing up." Yes, I'll take my leave." The bandit felt as if he had been pardoned, and he directly ran away. After a simple washing up, Qin Shujian was also completely awake. After leaving the room, he walked towards the loyalty hall. The place where he lived was not far from the loyalty hall. It would only take a few minutes to cover the distance. As expected, Wang Taiju had already been sitting there waiting for a long time. When he saw Qin Shujian come in, he quickly got up. "Master, has the information about the lion-tiger plane arrived?" Qin Shujian sat down on the main seat and asked straightforwardly. Hearing that, Wang Taiju nodded and said, "The brothers of the information hall have already brought back the information of the lion-tiger plane. Speak."
Yes.
Hearing that, Wang Taiju directly told him the information regarding the lion-tiger plane. The lion-tiger plane was different from other places. That place was occupied by a group of powerful mutated beasts, as well as many ferocious beasts. The so-called mutated beasts were beasts that were born with intelligence and understood human affairs. It was different from the stone forest. There were many ferocious beasts and mutated beasts in the lion-tiger plane, but there was only one power that truly occupied it, and that was the Ox Demon Cave. The Ox Demon Cave had many powerful mutated beasts and ferocious beasts. The cave master was an incomparably powerful ox demon lord, whose strength was not below the 7th stage of the martial realm. But because the ox demon lord didn't leave the Ox Demon Cave all year round, there was no definite answer as to what level his strength had reached. Apart from that, Wang Taiju also brought a piece of information that Qin Shujian was most concerned about. Players. Just as he had imagined, there were players in every realm. It was the same in the lion-tiger plane. How strong are those players? So when he heard the news about the players, Qin Shujian immediately threw the matter of the Ox Demon Cave to the back of his mind. What were mutated beasts and ferocious beasts? What was the Ox Demon Lord? Could these things be as troublesome as the players? Wang Taiju didn't know why his fort master was so concerned about the players, but he still immediately replied, "A brother fought with a group of players. From the situation of the fight, the player's strength was around the 4th or 5th stage of the martial realm." 4th or 5th stage of the martial realm. Qin Shujian's mood was a bit heavy. If he remembered correctly, the players in Novice Village 10021 were at most in the 1st or 2nd stage of the basic realm. When he reached Novice Village 23012, the highest was only in the 4th or 5th stage of the basic realm. Moreover, there were very few of them. And now, any random group of players he encountered in the lion-tiger plane already had such strength. He didn't believe it. This was the top group of players in the lion-tiger plane. Everything had to be prepared for the worst. The player's strength is increasing too quickly. If it isn't suppressed, the trouble in the future will be even more serious than the demon disaster. Qin Shujian's heart was slightly cold. How could he allow others to sleep in his bed? In the end, the lion-tiger plane was too close to the cold mountain stronghold. Chapter 94. The demon disaster raged in the Undying Plains. Whether it was the original NPC forces or the player forces, they were all in a terrible state. The undead skeletons revived from the demon disaster didn't differentiate between native creatures and players. As long as it was a living creature, it was a target for them to slaughter. In less than 2 days, 80% of the Undying Plains were conquered by the undead skeletons. As for the original NPC forces, they were all destroyed. If it wasn't for the fact that players could revive indefinitely, they wouldn't have been able to hold on. Novice Village 17561. For the players here, ever since the demon disaster raged, it wasn't an exaggeration to say that they were in purgatory. It could be said that there was an endless stream of undead skeletons attacking the Novice Village. Batch after batch of players died. The undead skeletons were also destroyed in batches. But these undead skeletons seemed to be able to revive like the players. No matter how the players killed them, their numbers didn't decrease. Damn it! Where did these damn skeletons come from? Zhou cut off the arm of the skeleton in front of him with one slash. Then he closed in and skillfully decapitated it, directly gaining experience. But there was no joy on his face at all. These undead skeletons were harder to kill than monsters of the same level. They also didn't drop anything. The only thing they could give was a decent amount of experience. There was nothing else. As soon as he killed one undead skeleton, more than 10 undead skeletons surrounded him. Zhou frowned and immediately retreated. Then he looked around. The wilderness plains was full of undead skeletons fighting with players. The only thing that could be considered calm. There was only the Novice Village that was desperately guarded behind him. Just like Novice Village 23012, the Novice Village he was in also issued a compulsory mission. Once the Novice Village was destroyed, they would also be severely punished. It was worth rejoicing. Although the undead skeletons were endless, their strength wasn't too high. With the advantage of the player's revival and the speed of gaining experience, they could barely hold on. But how long can we hold on like this? Zhou felt a little tired. Even if he had taken this opportunity to reach the 6th stage of the martial arts realm, it was still the same. Because the experience needed to reach the 7th stage of the martial arts realm from the 6th stage of the martial arts realm was too much. If he wanted to get enough experience, he had to fight the undead skeletons almost continuously. There was a limit to one's strength. If he wasn't careful, it was easy for him to fail miserably. For example, he himself had reached the 7th stage of the basic realm half a day ago. However, under the encirclement of numerous skeletons, he was ambushed by an elite-level monster and directly dropped 2 stages. Zhou was not the only one facing this situation. Even if the EXP gained from continuous killing wasn't slow, no one could remain undying. So until now, the overall strength of the players in Novice Village 17561 had not increased by much. It wasn't that there weren't any players who wanted to ask for help from other Novice Villages. However, there were only so many Novice Villages near the Undying Plains. 10021 and 23012 Novice Villages had already been annihilated before them. As for the other Novice Villages, when they saw the undead skeletons covering the mountains and plains on the forums, no one was willing to help. On the other side, under the Cold Mountain Stronghold's unyielding methods and alluring conditions, the Black Mountain Stronghold had no choice but to give up. The villages on both sides of Mount Liang and the Stone Forest had produced many young and strong men. They had joined the Mount Liang Stronghold and officially became glorious bandits. Looking at the newly promoted bandits standing upright below, but their expressions were still unable to completely conceal their fear. Qin Shujian suddenly felt a sense of sorrow. Adding on this new batch of people, adding on to the original 500 bandits. Unknowingly, the Mount Liang stronghold now had more than 1,200 people. This was already a lot of people. The mountain where the Mount Liang stronghold was built wasn't very steep or grand. It wasn't even very big. Previously, it could only accommodate 500 people. Now that the number of people had increased to 1,000, it was already packed to the brim. Hall Master Zheng. This old man is here. Zheng Feng, who was standing behind him, responded in a timely manner. Qin Shujian said, Mount Liang can no longer accommodate so many people. However, this is the foundation of the Mount Liang stronghold. It's temporarily impossible to move. In your opinion, What should we do with so many people? In this old man's opinion, it's better to let them build a stronghold at the foot of the mountain with Mount Liang as the center. Zhang Feng paused for a moment and said with a smile, "If the stronghold is surrounded and protected by many brothers, not only will it relieve the pressure on the stronghold, it will also serve as a foil to the stronghold master's prestige." Qin Shujian thought for a moment and nodded. "Then I'll have to trouble Hall Master Zhang to deal with this matter." This old man obeys. After handing the matter over to Jing Feng, Qin Shujian looked at them a few more times, then turned around and left. For him, these newly promoted bandits hadn't even reached the first stage of the basic realm. For the time being, they wouldn't be of much use to him. He needed the people of the martial arts hall to teach them the corresponding techniques. Only then could he think of a way to kill these players and increase their strength. Before that, he had to find the players first. The novice villages in Mount Liang and the stone forest had been destroyed. There were almost no players left. Therefore, Qin Shujian's target was the Lion-Tiger Plain. Other than half of the martial arts hall staying behind to guard Mount Liang's stronghold and half of the cloud-traversing hall guarding the stone forest, the rest of the people will follow me to flatten the Lion-Tiger Plain. In the loyalty hall, Qin Shujian's aura was awe-inspiring. The others didn't show any surprise. The information hall had always been investigating the ins and outs of the Lion-Tiger Plain. What Qin Shujian was thinking in his heart was already as clear as day. Moreover, with the current strength of Mount Liang stronghold, they didn't think that the Lion-Tiger Plain could cause any trouble. Therefore, after Qin Shujian gave the order, the people in charge of the other halls also began to move. Soon, other than the forces left behind to guard the stronghold, more than 300 bandits had gathered. This time, the martial arts hall vice hall master Su Yuanming, the cloud-traversing hall master Niu Feng, the Wuwei hall master Zheng Hong, the loyalty hall master Zhang Tiniu, and the information hall master Wang Taizhu were all ready. Other than Zheng Feng guarding the stronghold, Mount Liang's stronghold directly mobilized 3/4 of its strength. Among the 300 bandits, the lowest was the 6th stage of the martial realm. They had reached the peak of qi and blood. With so many people gathered together, their aura was like a rainbow. There seemed to be surging qi and blood overflowing. All the obstacles in Mount Liang's territory had been completely swept away by Mount Liang's stronghold. Even the wild beasts along the way, when they felt the surging qi and blood, fled as if they had encountered a terrifying natural enemy. Therefore, with Qin Shujian as the leader, the group moved almost unimpeded. They directly arrived at the border between Mount Liang and the Lion-Tiger Plain. There wasn't even a second of delay. Qin Shujian was the first to step into the border. As the Mount Liang stronghold master, you have stepped into other people's territory without permission. You have been discovered by the Demon Ox Cave in the Lion-Tiger Plain. If you don't withdraw in time, it will cause a war between the two forces. Attention! The Demon Ox Cave is extremely powerful. 3 system messages appeared in a timely manner. Qin Shujian only glanced at them and didn't pay any attention to them. Previously, when he entered the stone forest, he triggered the small probability event that was not discovered. This kind of thing was completely due to luck. Being able to trigger it at once was already very good. Qin Shujian didn't believe that he would trigger it again. Therefore, when they stepped into the Lion-Tiger Plain, it was inevitable that they would be discovered. On a vast plain, many wild beasts ran amok. There were also mutated beasts with intelligence. From time to time, loud roars of wild beasts could be heard. The ground trembled slightly, indicating that a primitive battle was unfolding. In the middle of the plain, there was a mountain forest. In a cave that seemed to be formed naturally, there would be a thunderous breathing sound every once in a while. None of the wild beasts and mutated beasts dared to approach the cave, as if there was a terrifying existence inside. Suddenly, the thunderous breathing sound in the cave suddenly stopped. Immediately after, a terrifying aura burst out. It was accompanied by an earth-shattering roar that instantly covered the sounds of the wild beasts fighting. In an instant, the group of beasts prostrated. In the cave, a huge black shadow slowly walked out. Every step caused the ground to tremble slightly. When the black shadow completely walked out of the cave, they could finally see its full appearance clearly. Its huge black horn was like a curved bow. Its tall body and limbs were covered in dark green scales. Its tail was also covered in scales, like a steel whip. Its bell-sized eyes were full of anger. Ox Demon Lord. When Qin Shujian stepped into the lion-tiger plane, he immediately received a warning from the unseen world. He was very clear. This was a warning from the heavenly Tao. It meant that an external enemy was stepping into his territory. In the eyes of the Ox Demon Lord, this was something that absolutely could not be allowed. According to the heavenly Tao's warning, the force that entered the lion-tiger plane this time was called Cold Mountain Village. He had heard this name recently, but he didn't expect that the other party would dare to step into the lion-tiger plane. All the beasts belonging to the Ox Demon Cave appear in front of this lord within 30 breaths. The Ox Demon Lord spoke in human language, his voice like rolling thunder. Immediately, with the Ox Demon Cave as the center, all the exotic beasts in all directions began to move. To be able to belong to the Ox Demon Cave, only the exotic beasts with spiritual intelligence were qualified. Moreover, compared to the wild beasts without spiritual intelligence, the exotic beasts had the most experts. Not long after, a large number of exotic beasts were prostrating in front of the Ox Demon Lord. These exotic beasts were of different species, but without exception, all of them had a powerful aura. The Ox Demon Lord's tall body looked down at the exotic beasts prostrating below. His voice boomed as he said, "Warning from the heavens. An enemy is trying to encroach on the lion-tiger plane. Now, follow this lord and kill the enemy. We obey the lord's orders. Let's go." The Ox Demon Lord directly ordered. Subsequently, the exotic beasts galloped, shaking the ground non-stop. The loud sound and aura caused the wild beasts without spiritual intelligence to retreat. They didn't dare to come close at all. Some scattered players were hunting the wild beasts. Suddenly, they felt the ground tremble. Before they could understand what was going on, they saw a large number of exotic beasts galloping over. They were instantly knocked to the ground and trampled to death in the next moment. In the end, these players didn't understand what was going on. Chapter 95. What's going on? Have those exotic beasts gone crazy? F***CK. Even that big ox demon boss from Ox Demon Cave has come out. Are they going to attack the village? In Lion-Tiger Plain, the players were in a mess. At this point in the game, it was no longer strange for monsters to attack villages. Not to mention the distant ones. Just say that next door was the bloody reality. 2 novice villages had been destroyed by the boss. A novice village was being encircled and annihilated, and it looked like it would be destroyed at any moment. It also indirectly made the players on Lion-Tiger Plain feel that they were in danger. After all, there were too many exotic beasts on Lion-Tiger Plain. Many players wanted to attack Ox Demon Cave, but 90% of them were destroyed outside Ox Demon Cave. Only a small portion of them were lucky enough to reach Ox Demon Cave, but they were also crushed to death by Ox Demon Lord. Comparing the strength of the monsters. Currently, the strength of the players on Lion-Tiger Plain was still a little low, just as the other players were nervously sending messages and preparing for battle. They suddenly realized that the exotic beasts led by Ox Demon Lord didn't even look at the other players. They completely missed the novice village. With this, the players' nervousness eased a little. They were even more curious about the exotic beasts' movements. The exotic beasts were out in full force. If it wasn't to attack the village, was it to roam? At this moment, the Liang Mountain Village bandit team had officially crossed the border and entered Lion-Tiger Plain. A bandit ran from afar and stopped in front of Qin Shujian and the others. He panted slightly and said, "Greetings, village master and hall master." Wang Taizhu glanced at Qin Shujian, then asked the bandit in front of him who belonged to the intelligence hall, "What happened?" "Ox Demon Lord has left Ox Demon Cave and is leading thousands of exotic beasts toward us. I'm afraid they don't have good intentions," the bandit replied honestly. "Return to the team." Hearing this, Wang Tieju's expression became more serious. He waved his hand and asked the bandit to return to the team behind him. He wasn't the only one. Even the faces of Xing Hong and the others turned grave. Although they didn't think that the Lion-Tiger Plain would be a match for the Cold Mountain stronghold, if an all-out war were to break out, it wouldn't be easy to fight against the forces of an entire boundary. It was the news from the information hall. On the Lion-Tiger Plains, the Demon Ox Cave was the sole overlord. This also meant that the Ox Demon Lord's realm was enhanced when he was in the territory of the Lion-Tiger Plains. This was similar to the situation of the Cold Mountain Village in the territory of Liang Mountain, but it was different from the situation in the Stone Forest. When there was only one power in a realm, the bonus would extend to the entire realm. On the contrary, if there were many forces in a domain and they were fighting against each other, the bonus would only be on their own territory. Zhang Hong, Niu Feng, and Su Yuanming were all experienced people. They were very clear about this. Chieftain, Zhang Hong looked at Qin Shujian, waiting for him to make a decision. Qin Shujian's expression remained the same. He calmly said, "We'll deal with whatever comes our way. Since the demonic ox cave dares to come, we won't have to waste any more time." Hearing this, the others calmed down. After that, the bandit team continued to advance towards the inner part of the Lion-Tiger Plain. But for some reason, they didn't encounter any players along the way. Rumble. The ground shook as if there were tens of thousands of troops galloping. At the same time, a shocking beast roar came from afar. "Stop!" Qin Shujian waved his hand, and the bandit team immediately stopped. Then, without needing him to say anything, Zhang Hong, Niu Feng, and the other hall masters directly commanded their bandit subordinates to get into formation and prepare for the upcoming battle. Not long after, dense and tiny black dots attacked from afar. As they got closer, these black dots gradually expanded and revealed their true appearance. In the lead, it was a 3 to 4 meter tall green ox that was as huge as a moving hill. Its 4 hooves stepped on the ground, giving people a powerful impact. And behind the green ox, there were countless and all kinds of exotic beasts galloping over. The only thing that was the same was, these exotic beasts were slightly larger than the same species of beasts. When they saw the green ox, a name appeared in everyone's mind. Ox Demon Lord. Qin Shujian's expression was slightly cold. He lightly shouted, "Qi and blood explosion." In an instant, boom, all the bandits who had reached the 6th stage of the martial arts realm and above had their surging qi and blood explode. They finally gathered together and formed a powerful qi and blood tide that shook the air and buzzed nonstop. This technique, Qin Shujian only discovered it after all the bandits had reached the 6th stage of the martial arts realm. Qi and blood tide. It directly collided with the aura of tens of thousands of beasts galloping in the air. There was no smoke. There was no earth-shattering change. However, the exotic beast army led by Ox Demon Lord was forced to stop 30 feet in front of the bandit team under the impact of this qi and blood tide. Ox Demon Lord's bell-sized eyes were already filled with shock. Even though there were only a few hundred bandits in front of him, which was far from the size of the exotic beast army behind him, he still did not give the order to directly attack the enemy's formation. Because, too powerful. Even without exchanging blows, the tide of blood energy was enough to make the Ox Demon Horde Lord apprehensive. Especially when he got closer, he felt a lot of threats from the bandit team. He was even more shocked. To be able to make him feel threatened, that person was at least an expert of the 8th stage of the martial arts realm. Not to mention the person standing at the very front of the bandit team, whose strength he could not see at all. Ox Demon Lord suddenly felt a little regretful. The heavenly axiom's warning would not indicate the specific strength of the enemy. Otherwise, he would definitely not lead his underlings to charge out so decisively. At the very least, when facing such a powerful enemy, he had to at least make some corresponding arrangements. While Ox Demon Lord was hesitating, Qin Shujian was also sizing up the enemy. To be honest, after coming to this world for so long, it was not that he had not seen ferocious beasts, but it was the first time he saw one as big as Ox Demon Lord. Under the premise of ignoring the opponent's strength, if one only looked at the size, the impact was not small at all. However, kill. Qin Shujian waved his hand. Killing intent was revealed in his calm tone. There was nothing much to say. Since the other party had led a group of people to charge over, It was obvious that they wanted to start a battle. Those who strike first gain the upper hand. Those who strike later suffer. After eliminating Ox Demon Lord and the other exotic beasts in front of him, the Lion-Tiger Plain would also fall into the control of his Cold Mountain stronghold. When the time came, he would slowly train the players here. When the order was given, the bandits were about to charge. The killing intent mixed with the impact of the surging blood, and Chi instantly woke Ox Demon Lord up. "Don't attack." As he spoke, his visually shocking body suddenly changed. In the blink of an eye, he turned into a tall and burly man with 2 horns on his head. He wore green armor and had thick eyebrows and big eyes. Qin Shujian was taken aback by the sudden change. What was this? Ox Demon Lord? Not only him, but even the other bandits were stunned. Their momentum of charging forward couldn't help but pause. Ox Demon Lord, who had transformed into a human, shook his shoulders a few times. He seemed to be not used to this state. Then, his broad palm stroked the horns on his head. A simple and sincere smile appeared on his face. "I am the Lord of Ox Demon Cave on the Lion-Tiger Plain. I wonder which one of you is Fort Master Qin of Cold Mountain Stronghold?" Now, Ox Demon Lord's face didn't have a trace of ferocity. That smile was as sincere as it could be. It was completely different from the attitude he had at the beginning, when he wanted to tear his enemies to shreds. Qin Shujian raised his eyebrows and said indifferently, "Do you have anything else to say?" His meaning was clear. If there was nothing else to say, then prepare to die. Although he was a little surprised that Ox Demon Lord could transform into a human, it was only a surprise. This didn't change his intention to attack the Lion-Tiger Plain. Ox Demon Lord felt a strong killing intent from Qin Shujian's words. His heart couldn't help but tremble. When he saw Qin Shujian's impatient expression, he hurriedly said, "Fort Master Qin, please don't attack. Ox Demon Cave and Cold Mountain Stronghold can be considered allies. There's no need to ruin our relationship." "When did my Cold Mountain Stronghold ally with Ox Demon Cave?" Qin Shujian snorted disdainfully. He shouted coldly, "Ox Demon Cave will either submit or be destroyed." "Fort Master Qin, Gufeng said that Mingliang Mountain Stronghold and the Carrier Trading Company will work together to resist the demon disaster. Ox Demon Cave has also promised the Carrier Trading Company that we will work together. In this way, how can we not be allies?" At this moment, the Ox Demon Commander's mind was working very fast, and he blurted out all his thoughts in one go. There was no other way. He was mainly afraid that if he spoke a little slower, he wouldn't have the chance to speak again. "Gufeng?" Qin Shujian's expression changed slightly. Ox Demon Lord observed his expression and secretly sighed in relief. The smile on his face became even more enthusiastic. Now that the demon disaster is wreaking havoc on the immortal plains, Cold Mountain Stronghold and Ox Demon Cave are both members of the ordinary realm. We should work together to resist the demon disaster. Seeing this, Qin Shujian remained silent. In addition to Cold Mountain Stronghold, Gufeng also sought out Ox Demon Cave for cooperation. To be honest, he was a little surprised. But after thinking about it, he felt that it was normal. After all, Ox Demon Cave was the largest power on the Lion-Tiger Plains. If they wanted to resist the demon disaster, the Carrier Trading Company naturally wouldn't let go of such a vital force. But in this way, Cold Mountain Stronghold couldn't casually attack Ox Demon Cave. At least, before the demon disaster was resolved, they couldn't casually attack. After understanding the strength of the Carrier Trading Company, Qin Shujian didn't plan to fall out with them for the time being. Moreover, Gufeng had always given face to Cold Mountain Stronghold. He couldn't secretly slap their face. However, Cold Mountain Stronghold's people were already here. If they went back with their tails between their legs, it would be too humiliating. Qin Shujian's expression returned to normal. He said indifferently, "Ox Demon Cave is indeed an ally of Cold Mountain Stronghold if they want to resist the demon disaster together. However, the threat of the variant humans on the Lion-Tiger Plains isn't much weaker than the demon disaster. Now that Cold Mountain Stronghold intends to help Ox Demon Cave wipe out the variant humans, I wonder if Lord is willing?" Ox Demon Lord was stunned at first, but quickly reacted. His face was full of smiles. Since Cold Mountain Stronghold is willing to help, How can Ox Demon Cave refuse? As long as they didn't attack Ox Demon Cave, any problem wasn't a problem. Chapter 96. Looking at the submissive Ox Demon Lord in front of him, Qin Shujian couldn't imagine the overlord of the Lion-Tiger Plains. However, when he thought of Niu Feng and Su Yuanming, he felt relieved. Seek good fortune and avoid disaster. That was probably the way to survive. There's one thing I don't understand. How can you transform into a human? Fort Master Qin, you don't know. For beasts like us who have gained intelligence, we need to break through the limit of the basic realm in order to transform into a human. Other than this method, we need to eat a transformation fruit to transform. Ox Demon Lord smiled honestly. He rubbed his horns again and said, "Luckily, I got a transformation fruit and was able to transform into a human." Hearing that, Qin Shujian more or less understood what was going on. The Ox Demon Lord in front of him, who had transformed into a large man, and the beasts standing restlessly behind him, made him feel like he was in a Xinxiao world. Being able to transform into a human, what was the difference between him and the legendary beasts? However, he only thought of it this way before throwing it to the back of his mind. What did it matter if he was a beast or not? He couldn't beat him anyway. Qin Shujian looked straight at Ox Demon Lord and asked in confusion, "Then what realm are you at now?" Ox Demon Lord's face froze. Directly asking about his realm was no different from slapping his face. But when he thought of Cold Mountain Fort's strength, even if the other party wanted to slap his left face, he had to stretch out his right face. 8th level of the basic realm, nothing much. Qin Shujian nodded. 8th level of the basic realm was actually not bad. At least out of all the masters he had met, Ox Demon Lord was the strongest. Adding on his power, he was probably equivalent to an expert of the 9th level of the basic realm in the Lion-Tiger Plains. Even, Qin Shujian looked at the beasts behind him. Many of them had powerful auras. Standing in front of Qin Shujian, Ox Demon Lord's face was a bit awkward. He was just being modest when he said he wasn't strong enough. After all, in the ordinary realm, those in the 8th stage of the basic realm were the true peak experts. The other party hummed in agreement, leaving him at a loss for words. What rank is the demonic Ox Cave? Level 1. This time, Ox Demon Lord had learned his lesson and answered directly. First class force. The lowest was the 3rd stage of the basic realm. To be able to become a level 1 faction meant that the Ox Demon Lord had a connate spiritual item. However, Qin Shujian didn't ask any more questions. Connate spiritual items were extremely important to any faction. Even if he asked, the other party might not answer truthfully. Qin Shujian swept his gaze towards the distance, where a small number of sneaky players were roaming about. In the end, his gaze returned to the Ox Demon Lord. Since the demonic Ox Cave has agreed, then there's no need to waste any more time. Please gather all of the demonic Ox Cave's forces and join me in wiping out the mutants on the Lion-Tiger Plain. Now, could it be that you have other ideas? Qin Shujian narrowed his eyes, a cold glint flashing in his eyes. Being stared at, Ox Demon Lord felt a chill run down his spine. He shook his head and said, "There's no time to lose. Let's do it now." After speaking, he had already cancelled his transformation and returned to his original body of a green ox. He turned to look at the army of beasts and shouted, "All beasts listen to my order. Attack the village of mutants." "Yes, sir." The army of beasts roared in unison like thunder. Then, Ox Demon Lord took the lead, with the army of beasts behind him. The moment the army of beasts set off, Qin Shujian also waved his hand and ordered the bandits to move. The players who were originally wandering in the distance and observing the army of beasts and bandits were scared out of their wits when they saw both sides charging towards them. Without thinking, they turned around and fled. However, how could those with 2 legs outrun those with 4 legs? These players didn't get far before the army of beasts caught up. Immediately after, they were completely swallowed by the waves. Very quickly, the news of the Ox Demon Cave boss going crazy, gathering beasts to attack the players, and charging towards the Novice Village spread out. Novice Village, 51169. The situation instantly became tense. After all, there was a precedent. Now, no one dared to underestimate the boss attacking the village. If they weren't careful, it would be awkward. Rumble. Thousands of beasts drove many other beasts and set off a powerful beast tide. Under the command of Ox Demon Lord, they killed all the players they encountered. The bandits of Cold Mountain Stronghold didn't even have a chance to attack before Ox Demon Lord's men cleared out all obstacles. Ox Demon Lord had already transformed back into human form and stood beside Qin Shujian. He smiled and said, "Fort Master Qin, do you think the strength of my Ox Demon Cave is still acceptable?" "Not bad." Qin Shujian smiled. The Ox Demon Overlord could be said to have dragged out all of the demonic Ox Cave secrets. Even if he didn't seriously think about the other party's intentions, he could still understand most of it. It was nothing more than telling others that the Ox Demon Cave was strong, and that Cold Mountain Stronghold shouldn't have any ideas about the Lion-Tiger Plains. If it was before they were promoted to a second-class faction. Now that the Ox Demon Cave had revealed such strength, Qin Shujian would have to think twice before making a move on the Lion-Tiger Plains. If he wasn't careful, perhaps both sides would end up with heavy losses. But with the current strength of the Cold Mountain Stronghold, Qin Shujian sneered in his heart. Ox Demon Lord was also secretly observing Qin Shujian's expression. Just as Qin Shujian thought, he did this to let the other party see the strength of the Ox Demon Cave and dispel those thoughts that they shouldn't have. Otherwise, it would be uncomfortable to have a strong enemy staring at you all the time. Thinking of this, Ox Demon Lord felt a little bitter in his heart. When Gu Feng came to him to cooperate, he only mentioned the Cold Mountain Stronghold in passing. He never told him that the neighboring Cold Mountain Stronghold was this strong. Fortunately, things hadn't reached a point of no return yet. The novice village was already in sight. However, the beast race army's speed had slowed down. Because in front of the army, a large group of players had already gathered and were clashing with the exotic beasts. A group of players from the novice village. There were at least 1,000 of them, and more than 10,000 of them. Qin Shujian looked at the players gathered in front of him. At a glance, their numbers weren't much less than the Ox Demon Cave's army. The moment the two sides came into contact, they started killing each other. Compared to these exotic beasts, the players' realms were generally a little lower. Moreover, these exotic beasts weren't small in size, and they were covered in fur and armor. They were born with an advantage. Although the players also had weapons, they didn't have weapons. But when comparing the two, they were still a little weaker. At almost every moment, there were beasts dying and players reviving. Ox Demon Lord looked at the charging beast race army and immediately deactivated his shape-shifting state. He turned into a huge green ox and smashed into the crowd. Boom! With a stomp of his hooves, the players' tendons and bones were broken. Just a simple charge was enough to send people flying and coughing up blood. This is the Ox Demon Cave's Ox Demon boss. Hurry up and restrain him. Don't let him mess up our formation. A player who had tried to conquer the Ox Demon Cave immediately recognized Ox Demon Lord's identity. Hearing that, immediately, dozens of players who had broken through to the 6th stage of the martial realm charged at Ox Demon Lord. The players needed to break through to the 6th stage of the martial realm. They also needed to complete a specific mission and obtain the subsequent cultivation techniques. This mission wasn't difficult, but it wasn't easy either. So even if there were tens of thousands of players in the novice village, only 1 or 2% of them were able to complete a specific mission and obtain a cultivation technique to break through to the 6th stage of the martial realm. No one knew what was going on with this beast wave. No one knew why the beast race on the Lion-Tiger Plain suddenly went crazy. They only knew. Since there was a boss attacking the village, then they had to block it. Or else, just by looking at the downfall of the novice village that was destroyed on the forum, one would know the outcome. Dozens of players at the 6th stage of the martial realm teamed up. The powerful attack immediately forced Ox Demon Lord to change his offense. While the two sides were fighting, the other players tactfully retreated and left the center empty. They left the high-level players to deal with Ox Demon Lord while the others faced the attacks of the Beast Race army. In the novice village, Wang Wanzheng left the village chief's office. The team members were already waiting outside. Young Master Wong, how is it? We've already received this mission. The requirement is to repel the beast race army. The more beasts we kill during this period, the better. If we can kill Ox Demon Lord, that would be even better, said Wang Wanzheng after glancing at the mission interface. One of the players said, we just received news that Ox Demon Lord has appeared and is fighting with the player army. Should we head over directly? Is everyone here? As long as we're not on a mission, we've already gathered everyone. No need to wait. Let's go. Hearing that, Wang Wanzheng made his decision. The Ox Demon Lord could only die in his hands. If he was killed by others, the completion rate of this mission would be reduced. As for whether or not they could resist the boss's attack, he wasn't worried at all. The current strength of Novice Village, 51169, wasn't something that Novice Village 10021 and 23012 could compare to. To the players, every extra day of development was a significant change. Just like before, players at the 5th stage of the martial realm were at most. But now, the 6th stage of the martial realm wasn't too rare. This was the difference. On the battlefield, the Beast Race Army was still fighting with the player army. The bandit team stood behind Qin Shujian, waiting for orders. I'm afraid the Ox Demon Cave's Beast Race Army won't be able to deal with these players. Should we join in? Su Yuaming asked Qin Shujian as he looked at the fighting scene. As he spoke, he was also shocked. Back in the Stone Forest, Chuan Yun Village had fought with many players. But compared to the mutants in front of him now, the difference was like heaven and earth. If the players in front of them attacked Chuan Yun Village wouldn't be able to hold on for long and would be wiped out. Hearing that, Qin Shujian was silent for a while before saying, kill? Then, the bandit team behind him charged forward. At the same time, all the players in the battle paused. Then, a system notification appeared, causing their expressions to change drastically. Chapter 97. The Ox Demon Cave and Cold Mountain Stronghold have launched a large-scale attack on Novice Village 51169. This is a battle of life and death. During this period of time, every time you kill an enemy, you will receive a corresponding reward. The more enemies you kill, the stronger you are, and the greater the reward. This is a mandatory mission. The final mission is to defeat the Ox Demon Cave and Cold Mountain Stronghold, or kill the Cold Mountain Stronghold Master and Ox Demon Lord. After the mission, you can go to the village chief to collect the reward. Mission failure. Novice Village 51169 will be destroyed. All players will drop by 3 realms, and their experience will be reduced by 50% for 10 days. Cold Mountain Stronghold. A mandatory mission. All of the players in Novice Village 51169 were shocked by this news, and their minds were in a trance. No one had expected this. The mandatory mission mentioned on the forum would befall them. They also didn't expect that Cold Mountain Stronghold would appear on the Lion-Tiger Plains and join hands with the Ox Demon Cave. There was a short moment of silence. Then, the crowd boiled over. When did Cold Mountain Stronghold come here? They are even colluding with the Ox Demon Cave. I was wondering why these monsters suddenly went crazy and attacked the village. One Ox Demon Cave is troublesome enough. Now there's an even more troublesome Cold Mountain Stronghold. How are we supposed to fight? I want to know where the Cold Mountain Stronghold Master is. The players were all agitated. Many of them felt uneasy. This was something they couldn't do anything about. Cold Mountain Stronghold's reputation among the players was simply too great. They destroyed 2 novice villages in a row and came out unscathed. Their powerful and invincible attitude was deeply ingrained in the hearts of the players. Especially with the mandatory mission, it gave these players a heavy psychological pressure. After all, if they failed the mission, the punishment would be too painful. Kill. With Zhang Tsang Niufeng as the leader, the bandit team was like an invincible sharp knife, forcefully cutting into the players' camp. The full power of the 8th realm of the martial realm was enough to rival the Ox Demon Lord without the support of any faction. Or on the Lion-Tiger Plains. An 8th realm martial realm hall master was not as strong as the Ox Demon Lord. However, 2, 3, 4, or even 5 were 2 completely different concepts. To deal with a single Ox Demon Lord, They already needed dozens of players in the 6th stage of the martial realm. Now, facing the charge of Niu Feng and the others, the players were flustered. Players with unranked weapons, step aside. Immediately, a player shouted, "Bronze skin of the 7th stage of the basic realm. 8th stage of the basic realm, iron bones." This was no longer a secret. As time passed in the game, the secrets of the basic martial arts realm had been thoroughly researched by the players. Even if no one had reached the limit of the basic martial arts realm, it was still the same. There was no such thing as forcefully deducting health points in this game. In order to deal with a boss of the 7th stage of the martial realm and above, one needed to be strong enough and equipped with a sharp enough weapon. Or else, no matter how many people there were, it was useless. This was the experience that many players had gained from fighting bosses with blood and tears. Especially the video of the Liangshan village chief attacking the village. Tens of thousands of players were easily killed, allowing the enemy to enter and exit as if there was no one around. This made everyone understand how important it was to break through defenses in this game. In an instant, another group of players split off from the player camp and charged towards the bandit group. Song Hong held his saber and used his full strength of the 8th stage of the martial realm. The 100 saber technique reached an unimaginable level in his hands. His powerful attacks caused the players to retreat step by step. Last time, when he attacked the player village in the stone forest, he was surrounded and killed by the players before the real battle began. This was an eternal pain in Song Hong's heart. If he wasn't surrounded and killed, then Zheng Feng wouldn't be the only one in the Liangshan village who reached the 9th stage of the martial realm. When he thought of Zheng Feng's smiling old face, he felt that Zheng Feng was laughing at him. Furthermore, Song Hong was more worried. If Qin Shujian thought that he wasn't doing a good job and didn't put him in an important position, then that would really affect his future. Therefore, this time, he had to prove himself. The players in front of him were the best way to prove himself. Bang! The tiger head saber emitted a terrifying aura. Song Hong roared and sent the 2 players in front of him flying. This saber, after Qin Shujian obtained the 1,000 mountain blood, the tiger head saber didn't have much use for him. Seeing that Song Hong's original weapon was destroyed by him, he gave it to him. The scene was chaotic. Although there weren't many people in the Liangshan village, every one of them was at the 6th stage of the martial realm. To the current players, they were at least at the level of an elite NPC. Bandits who had mastered other cultivation techniques were equivalent to a moderately sized boss. Therefore, although there weren't many people in the Liangshan village, when they really charged, the players had no way to stop them. Qin Shujian stood at the back, watching the scene of the 2 sides fighting and killing. This time, he could clearly see that the players' strength had transformed to a very powerful level. If they delayed for another 10 days or half a month, they might be able to threaten his Liangshan village. There's too little time. Qin Shujian sighed and shook his head helplessly. The players had to be fast. He could only be faster than the players. After this time, he might really have to seize the time and break through the ordinary realm boundary. Soon, Qin Shujian collected his thoughts. His calm eyes became cold. Looking at the scene of the battle in the distance, the killing intent in his heart gradually boiled. Bang! The ground suddenly caved in. In the next moment, Qin Shujian disappeared from where he stood. In the air, the 5th grade weapon, 1,000 mountain blood, was brazenly unsheathed. With the appearance of the long saber, an earth-shattering bloody light seemed to be completely released. The moment Qin Shujian grasped the 1,000 mountain blood, he felt a strong killing intent surge from the saber. But this time, he didn't suppress this killing intent. Instead, he used his mind to burst out and directly charged into the crowd of players. Entering the lion-tiger plane, the effect of the Liangshan village's strength originally disappeared. But for the current Qin Shujian, it didn't matter if his realm increased by 2. At least, this was the case when facing players who were at most at the 6th stage of the martial realm. Not to mention anything else, just the tenfold body forging scripture, the tenfold everlasting spring technique, and the ninefold tiger subduing body forging technique had already pushed his strength to a terrifying level. True Qi level 2. The Thousand Mountain blood was instantly covered with a thin layer of green true chi. Vajra Tiger subduing body level 2. The veins on Qin Shujian's arm that was holding the saber bulged like a dragon. A power that far surpassed the 10th stage of the martial realm instantly erupted. Boom! The blade covered with true chi, combined with a force of several tens of thousands of pounds, directly killed any players who tried to resist. It didn't matter if they were at the 3rd or 4th stage of the martial realm. It didn't matter if they were at the 6th stage of the martial realm. In front of this saber, they were as weak as paper. Such a frightening aura instantly caused the other players' attacks to falter. Even a boss at the level of Ox Demon Lord wouldn't have such a terrifying scene. Then, it went without saying who the boss that suddenly appeared in front of them was. The Liangshan Village Master. Some players who had watched the video on the forum immediately confirmed the identity of the person who came. In an instant, the surrounding players went crazy. Damn, the Liangshan Village Master is here. Are there any more high-level players? Come quickly. Don't worry about the other bosses. Surround the Liangshan Village Master and kill him. At this moment, the Ox Demon Lord and the other bosses were no longer important. What else was more important than the Liangshan Village Master? Some nosy players made a ranking list of the bosses in the Novice Village. The Liangshan Village Master's name immediately rose to the top 3 and didn't drop. Soon, the news of the Liangshan Village Master appearing on the battlefield spread. Many players gave up on the Ox Demon Lord and the other bosses and changed their target to Qin Shujian. The reason why they did this. The first reason was because the Liangshan Village Master was the strongest and the most famous. The second reason was, the stronger the boss, the more likely it was to be killed. The rewards would definitely make all the players go crazy. Looking at the players who were charging at him, Qin Shujian felt disdain in his heart. The Thousand Mountain blood turned into a sharp weapon in an instant. In his hands, a level 9 sharp weapon was already terrifying enough. Now that he was using a level 5 sharp weapon, it was as easy as cutting vegetables. The piercingly cold blade light burst forth, and the shadow of a black tiger appeared in midair. Its bell-sized eyes turned blood red. It looked at the players below and let out an earth-shaking roar. Roar! The roar shook the heavens, and the sound waves shook the air. Many players who were close to the roar had painful expressions on their faces. They couldn't help but cover their ears. Faint traces of blood even flowed out of their 7 orifices. Even worse, they directly raised their heads and spat out blood. They turned into white light and revived. Black Tiger Roar. It shocked everyone within 100 miles. This move of the Black Tiger Blade technique became more and more terrifying in Qin Shujian's hands as his realm became more and more profound. With one roar, no less than 10 players died. Even more players instantly lost the ability to resist. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The blade light pierced through the air, cleanly harvesting lives. Qin Shujian was like a bloody executioner. He walked among the players. Every time he swung his blade, a player would die. No matter how many players rushed at him, they couldn't stop him. And his target. It was the Novice Village behind the players. A player raised his sword to block the attack. However, the blade light flashed, and the long sword broke in the middle. My level 9 sharp weapon. The player felt a sharp pain in his heart, but before he could react, he saw the blade flash again, and he was swallowed by it. The Fort Master of Mount Liang wants to kill his way into the Novice Village. Stop him! Stop him! Someone, come quickly. Seeing Qin Shujian enter an unstoppable state, many of the players were horrified. At this moment, it was as if they were in a real battlefield. The bloody killing intent made people tremble. Some of the more timid players already had the urge to retreat. However, when they thought of the consequences of failing the forced quest, they forcefully resisted this urge. Now, this game had become a second world for humans. Wealth and opportunities could be found here. For many people, this place had become an indispensable part of their lives. If they failed the quest, it would be too difficult to catch up with other players. Therefore, they couldn't retreat. Chapter 98. Sometimes, Whether one could succeed or not depended not only on oneself, but also on external factors. Players were not afraid of death. But the difference in strength still could not stop Qin Shujian's footsteps. Kill. Thousand Mountain Blood's cold light burst forth, and the sword light raged like a chaotic blade. Almost none of the players who came into contact with it could escape unscathed. Whoosh! The sound of air being torn was heard. Qin Shujian's ears twitched, and Thousand Mountain Blood suddenly slashed out, colliding with the three lights. Bang! Sparks flew, and the lights disappeared. Two silver arrows flew out. One of the silver arrows was directly broken in half and fell to the ground. What a pity, Wang Wanzhong secretly said. He had a clear understanding of Qin Shujian's strength again. Those three arrows were not ordinary arrows. They were fine steel arrows that he spent a lot of money to hire NPC craftsmen in the novice village to make. In terms of sharpness, it was not inferior to a 9th-grade weapon. Coupled with a strong explosive force, it was enough to injure and kill any boss. This was a method Wang Wanzhong came up with to deal with this powerful boss after the Cold Mountain stronghold was wiped out in the stone forest. After all, there was almost no chance of winning against a 10th-grade martial arts boss in a head-on fight. If one relied on hidden weapons and cold arrows, there was a chance of winning. This method of killing bosses was actually not a secret. Players had already posted it on the forum, and it had been repeatedly verified. Once he missed. Wang Wanzhong raised the big bow in his hand, took out 3 more arrows, and knocked them. On the other side, Qin Shujian also looked in the direction of the arrows and saw Wang Wanzhong knocking an arrow. The next second, his strong physical strength instantly exploded, and then he stomped his feet. The ground shook, and his body shot out like an arrow. At the same time, Thousand Mountain Blood turned into a rainbow and tore the players in front of it apart. Wang Wanzhong's heart suddenly beat wildly. Seeing the blade breaking through the air, he released the bowstring without thinking. The arrow suddenly burst out and fiercely collided with the rainbow of the blade. Boom! It was just a moment. Under the impact of the terrifying power, the arrow was broken in an instant, and then it flew back. In Wang Wanzhong's eyes, countless cold lights were magnified. Soon after, he felt a sharp pain in his body. The broken arrow had pierced through his body, directly ending his life. The players standing beside him did not escape the fate of being pierced by the arrows. It all happened in a flash. More than 10 players were killed by the flying arrows. Immediately after, in the end, the rainbow blade fell and cleared all the players in front of it. From the perspective of the entire battlefield, the player faction was originally blocking the entrance of the novice village, fighting against the beasts and bandits. But now, Qin Shujian single-handedly pierced through the entire player camp, creating a temporary gap that couldn't be filled. The novice village was completely exposed to the eyes of others. Qin Shujian ignored the surrounding players, his eyes only focused on the village in front of him. When he stepped into the range of the novice village, the guards guarding the novice village finally made their move. The NPCs in the novice village couldn't easily leave the novice village. So, they could only attack when the enemy walked into the novice village. Just as Qin Shujian had always imagined. The stronger the forces in the novice village were, the stronger the NPCs in the novice village would be. In front of him, the guards who attacked gave the feeling that they were at least in the 4th stage of the martial arts realm. There was not much conversation. When the guards attacked, Qin Shujian was 1 step ahead of them. Qian Shanxue cut through the air with a thunderous force and swept past the guards' bodies in an instant. The guards' movements suddenly stiffened. Then, blood burst out of their bodies, and they fell to the ground powerlessly. Everything happened in a split second. By the time the other players reacted, more than half of the guards who attacked had already fallen. Go! Kill! The players who came back to their senses immediately charged forward. If a boss killed his way into the novice village while being blocked by thousands of people, it would be really embarrassing. Moreover, if they were careless and the entire village was destroyed, they would be too ashamed to show their faces. You're courting death. Qin Shujian roared angrily. The strength of the 10th stage of the martial arts realm exploded. The black tiger saber technique of One with the Heavens became even more terrifying with the help of Qian Shanxue. At the same time, when the players swarmed forward, in the novice village, 7 or 8 powerful auras exploded. Every aura was at least in the 7th stage of the martial arts realm. When they exploded together, their power was not small at all. Qin Shujian also felt it. He looked at his life source. Since the start of the battle, he had already harvested thousands of life sources. He was not far away from 2,000 life sources. As the player's realm increased, the amount of life sources that could be harvested with each kill also increased at a terrifying speed. Currently, apart from the Black Tiger Saber technique that had reached the 10th stage and the One with the Heavens, the rest of the techniques could be improved. Shortly after, Qin Shujian's mind moved. 1,400 life sources disappeared. The tiger subduing body honing technique was directly upgraded from the 9th stage to the 10th stage. Boom! The qi and blood that were close to being stagnant seemed to have turned into mercury at this moment. It was as if it had undergone a terrifying transformation. The second level of the tiger subduing King Kong had also become the third level of the tiger subduing King Kong. In an instant, Qin Shujian's skin turned red. It was as if he was in a furnace. A powerful energy that had nowhere to vent was exploding in his body. I've gone too far. This was the thought in Qin Shujian's mind. He did not expect that the upgrade of the tiger subduing body honing technique would reach the limit of what his body could bear. His skin was faintly red, causing his eyes to be filled with blood vessels. He looked a little scary. This powerful energy that had reached the limit needed to be vented. Qin Shujian took a step forward. He held Qian Shanxue in both hands and suddenly slashed out. The blade emitted a cold light. The terrifying energy attached to the long blade left a trace in the air. Soon after, the terrifying energy exploded on the blade. Boom! The raging wind blew the players away. The cold light from Qian Shanxue cut through the air and headed towards the 3 NPC experts who had jumped out of the novice village. Bang! The 3 NPCs had just jumped into the air when they were cut in half. Blood rained down along with their corpses. With one slash, he directly killed 3 experts who were at least of the 7th stage of the martial arts realm. Before the other players could be shocked, Qin Shujian had already raised his blade. It was as if thunder was shaking. He had completely started his killing spree. The 3 NPCs' bodies had just fallen to the ground. The other NPC experts who had rushed over from the novice village had just arrived. When they saw the corpses on the ground, their faces were filled with shock. Obviously, they did not understand why, in just a few seconds, their companions who were not weaker than them had died. They did not have time to think too much. Qin Shujian, who had started his killing spree, jumped up. When he used his strength to split the mountain, the terrifying wind blade enveloped the 5 NPC experts who had just arrived. Dodge! Feeling the wind blade of death, all the NPCs' faces changed. Just as they were dodging, the blade had already fallen. Rumble! The ground trembled. The blade remained. An NPC standing in the middle could not dodge in time and was directly cut in half. As for the other NPCs who had dodged, they were also hit by the wind. Their internal organs were displaced, and they almost could not breathe. This terrifying power had completely exceeded the limits of what they could endure. However, the injuries on their bodies were not as shocking as the scene in front of them. Looking at Qin Shujian, who was holding Qian Shanxue, they only felt that they were facing an undefeatable existence. Looking at the bloodshot eyes that had not completely faded, they felt an inexplicable chill in their hearts. An expert. An undefeatable expert. Who dares to cause trouble here? You're courting death. Boom. A powerful aura exploded from the novice village. A furious voice came like rolling thunder. Immediately after, they saw a white-clothed old man leaping into the air. Quick, stop him. Seeing this scene, some of the players immediately came back to their senses and shouted in fear. In an instant, the other players also came back to their senses. Suddenly, a group of people abandoned Qin Shujian and rushed toward the white-clothed old man. The white-clothed old man was forcefully stopped. He said with an unhappy expression, "Young heroes, now that there are enemies invading, Why don't you follow me to kill the enemies? Why are you blocking my way?" Hearing this, many players blushed with shame. "You're old, do a good deed and don't come out. As long as you don't die, our novice village still has hope." Before, they were not sure if the village chief of the novice village was a match for the Cold Mountain Stronghold Master. But when he killed several NPCs of the martial arts level 8 with one strike, they saw the reality clearly. That terrifying power. Even if the village chief of the novice village came, he would still die. So when they saw the white-clothed old man rushing over, some players reacted and hurriedly went to stop the village chief's plan to die. As long as the village chief did not die, they might still have a chance to win if they used the human wave tactic. If the village chief was killed, then everything would be in vain. However, these words were only in the minds of the players. They would not directly say it out loud. "This guy is ferocious and his aura is at its peak. Why don't we first exhaust a part of his strength? Then, village chief, you can kill him in one blow and save the building." "That's right. How can I let you fight in front and hide on the side alone?" The white-clothed old man flung his sleeves and angrily rebuked. "If I'm afraid of death, then I'm not worthy of being the village chief." While speaking, he directly forced the players in front of him to retreat and walk toward Qin Shujian. There, the players were still rushing forward, but they were still one-sidedly crushed. Seeing this, the players who blocked the village chief of the novice village only had a big word in their hearts. "Isn't it good to live well? Why do you have to go and die?" Chapter 99. Invading my village, die. The white-clothed old man's posture was aloof as he struck out with his palm, setting off a strong wind. Under the cloud, like indifferent true energy, endless killing intent was hidden. This palm, the surrounding players were forced to retreat. As for the target, it was Qin Shujian, who was in the middle of a massacre. Looking at the peerless power of the palm, Qin Shujian moved his feet, holding the Thousand Mountain Blood with both hands. The biting cold blade light instantly burst out, turning into a black tiger in the air, directly disappearing into the clouds. In an instant, the terrifying blade light exploded, directly tearing the clouds into pieces. Immediately after, the black tiger tore through the clouds, turning into a deadly blade light, charging straight at Wang Yin. It seemed like a moment had passed, but it also seemed like a long time had passed. When the blade light disappeared, it seemed like everything had stopped. But then, the white-clothed old man's expression froze. A bloody mark appeared on his forehead, spreading down. Village 51,169's village chief, Wang Yin, has died. Village 51,169's village chief has died. The core token is ownerless. You can go to the center of the village to fight for the token. Village 51,169's village chief, Wang Yin, has died. The mandatory mission has failed. Your realm has dropped by 3 levels. The experience you gain for the next 10 days will be reduced by 50%. The mission failure prompt woke the other players up. Immediately after, they saw all the players' auras suddenly drop to the extreme. A dozen 6th-level martial arts level players were surrounding and killing Yofeng. Suddenly, the mission failure prompt came, and then their realms dropped to the 3rd level of the martial arts level. This sudden change, without waiting for the players to react, they saw a 9-ringed broadsword heavily chopping at them. The terrifying power sent the dozen or so players who were besieging them flying. Poochie. In the air, the players spat out blood, and before they landed, they were directly shaken to death by this violent power. A 6th-level martial arts level against an 8th-level martial arts level, relying on the number of people could barely support, but a 3rd-level martial arts level against an 8th-level martial arts level. Only death awaited them then. Such a scene. It didn't just appear here. Failing the mandatory mission and dropping by 3 levels was simply a nightmarish blow to the players. What's going on? Are those people in the village useless? F***CK. How did the village chief die so quickly? What the hell? The remaining players were all enraged. They were fighting with their lives on the front lines. Only Cold Mountain Stronghold Master had managed to kill his way in. There were at least 1,000 players in the novice village. Even if they couldn't besiege and kill the Cold Mountain Stronghold Master, it shouldn't be a problem to stop him. No one had expected this. Not even 10 minutes had passed since the other party charged in and failed the mission. However, no matter how angry the players were, it was useless. In the early stages of the game, they were weakened to the level of the floor. Even if the players could continuously revive, it was still a one-sided battle. In the novice village, Wang Yan's body fell to the ground. The village chief of the novice village did not even manage to withstand a single blow and died under Qin Shujian's saber. He had pushed the tiger-subduing body-tempering art to the 10th level. Even Qin Shujian himself did not know what level his strength had reached. This was a mixed and violent power. Even his physical body was almost unable to withstand it and collapsed. However, as the destructive saber slashed out, the full power was vented. Qin Shujian felt the swelling in his body ease up a lot. His qi and blood also gradually calmed down. The situation changed too quickly. The players did not even think that Wang Yan, the village chief, would die so quickly. By the time they reacted, the matter was already a foregone conclusion. They felt the weakness in their bodies. It was the discomfort caused by the sudden drop in level. Looking at Qin Shujian standing in front of Wang Yan's corpse, these players suddenly did not know what to do. Fight? They definitely could not beat him. If it was before they failed the mission, with their level and numbers, they still had a chance of winning. However, after failing the mission, their level dropped by 3 levels. Even the current top high-level players were only around the 3rd level of the martial arts realm. One side was the 3rd level of the martial arts realm. One side was the 10th level of the martial arts realm. Moreover, it was a big boss that could kill the novice village chief, who was also at the 10th level of the martial arts realm. Even if the other party stood there and did not fight back, whether or not they would be able to fight was still an unknown question. However, the players did not make a move, but it did not mean that Qin Shujian would not make a move. After killing Wang Yan and harvesting a wave of life sources, his gaze fell on the other players and the remaining few NPC experts. In his eyes, these were all walking sources of life. Swish! Qin Shujian's body suddenly moved. The 1,000-mountain blood exploded with a sharp cold light, directly enveloping the few stunned NPCs on the side. Compared to the endless stream of players, it was more meaningful to kill these high-level NPCs first. There were no accidents. Facing this fatal saber, those NPCs at the 7th or 8th level of the martial arts realm did not even have the chance to fight back. Their lives were directly taken by the saber. Immediately after, Qin Shujian stepped on the 5 elements 8 trigrams. His figure was like a ghost as he shuttled through the players. The shocking saber light shone brightly in the scorching sun, harvesting the lives of one player after another. Facing such a massacre, the players were not completely without courage. However, the difference in strength was there. Any resistance was futile. Boom! Hundreds of figures rushed in again. Master! Qin Shujian looked over and saw Niu Feng, Su Yuanming, and the others. They were still at the 8th level of the martial arts realm. After all, at their level, only players at the 5th level of the martial arts realm and above could give them a chance to break through. However, there were not many players at the 5th level of the martial arts realm and above. In addition, now that their realms had all dropped, there was nothing to see. Niu Feng, take some people to the center of the village and guard the core token. Without my orders, no one is allowed to enter. Otherwise, kill without mercy. Qin Shujian immediately ordered.
Yes.
Hearing this, Niu Feng immediately led a dozen bandits and charged toward the center of the village. An 8th level of the martial arts realm boss leading a group of 6th or 7th level of the martial arts realm elite NPCs. In the camp of players, whose strongest was only at the 3rd level of the martial arts realm, it was like entering an unstoppable place. The rest of you, follow me. Qin Shujian ordered Su Yuanming and the others. After speaking, he directly tore a hole in the middle of the players and charged toward the other side of the village. Behind him, the bandits of the Cold Mountain stronghold followed closely. It was also at this moment that a terrifying figure violently charged in. The scales on the Ox Demon Lord's huge body were shattered. Occasionally, arrows would pierce into his flesh. However, This degree of injury was insignificant to his huge body. Stronghold Master Qin, the Ox Demon Lord, sent several players flying with his head and stomped a few to death with his hooves. A thunderous voice came from his mouth. Cows can speak. Monster? The players who were fighting with their lives on the side all had faces of astonishment. This was because from start to finish, the Ox Demon Lord had never spoken. They also did not know that the Ox Demon Lord could speak. Now that they saw it, they could not help but feel a sense of horror. I'll have to trouble the Ox Demon Cave to kill the remaining players. Qin Shujian's voice came from afar. The Ox Demon Lord's ferocious head revealed a cruel smile. No problem. Leave these players to my Ox Demon Cave. After speaking, the Ox Demon Lord roared angrily. Thousands of beasts responded one after another. Several elite-level beasts broke through the defense line of the players and directly gathered beside him. Kill all the players, the Ox Demon Lord directly ordered. After that, the beasts' attacks became crazy again. On the other side, Qin Shujian walked forward unwaveringly. Every time he waved his blade, there would be a player in front of him who would die. His goal was very clear. That was to find the resurrection point of the players. According to his experience playing games, as the resurrection point of the players in the novice village, there would definitely be a fixed resurrection point. However, in the previous 2 attacks on the village, he was anxious about the core token and did not think about finding the resurrection point of the players. However, this time, Qin Shujian put the matter of the core token aside. He wanted to find the resurrection point of the players first. There were some things he wanted to personally verify it. Not long after, a platform that looked like a square appeared in Qin Shujian's line of sight. Around the square, there was a layer of green light screen. In the square, white light would appear from time to time. One by one, the players who died were constantly being resurrected. Why is the Liang Mountain Chieftain here? There were players who had just been resurrected. When they saw Qin Shujian rushing towards the resurrection point, there was a trace of confusion and hesitation in their angry faces. According to the video on the forum, the boss in front of them should not have appeared at the resurrection point. He should have gone to the center of the village to obtain the core token. Wait. Suddenly, a player was shocked and angry. He pointed to the front and shouted, "Look, what is he trying to do?" There was no need for that person to remind them. The others also saw the changes in front of them. They saw Qin Shujian instructing the bandits behind him to kill all the players outside the resurrection point. Then, the bandits suddenly spread out and occupied the entire periphery of the resurrection point. Damn, does this boss want to camp the corpses or torture them? I can't tolerate this. If this spreads, we won't be able to survive. Let's fight it out with them. Let's fight it out. The players were suddenly excited. Right now, they had thrown all thoughts of not being able to fight it out with force and not doing anything pointless. Playing the game. There were 2 things that they could not tolerate the most. One was camping the corpses. The other was torturing them. In the eyes of these players, Qin Shujian's actions were no different from camping the corpses and torturing the corpses. He had already completely rubbed their faces against the ground. It was already shameful enough that they were killed by a boss as if he was invincible. If they had to camp the corpses and torment the corpses. If this matter spread out, their novice village 51169 would become the laughing stock of the gaming world. Their heads could be cut off. Their blood could be shed. He really couldn't afford to lose face. Chapter 100. The Resurrection Square wasn't big, but it wasn't small either. It could hold about 2,000 to 3,000 people. Players couldn't attack when they were in the resurrection point. So, these resurrected players immediately charged out of the resurrection circle and charged towards the bandits that surrounded them. Kill any mutants who step out of the circle of light. Qin Shujian's face was cold. Thousand Mountain Blood's cold light flashed and killed a dozen players who rushed out. At the same time, he also checked his own source of life and found that it had slowly increased a little from the original foundation. Receiving Qin Shujian's order, the bandits led by Niu Feng, Su Yuanming, and the others all burst out with their strongest attacks and killed the players who rushed out of the resurrection circle one by one. At this time, All the players had died at least once or twice, and some, they had died more than 4 or 5 times. Furthermore, there was the punishment of dropping 3 levels. Among the current players, it wasn't easy to find someone who was at the second stage of the basic realm. More and more, they had fallen to the ground. On the other hand, the bandits. The difference in strength between the two sides was not at the same level. In layman's terms, in terms of attack, defense, and speed, the players couldn't compare to the bandits of Cold Mountain Village. Under the suppression of all aspects, victory or defeat was only a matter of a second. But the players who rushed out, they couldn't hold on for long and were all killed back. Qin Shujian looked at the circle of light around the resurrection square and the players who were rushing out of it. He couldn't help but move his feet. As soon as he moved, it immediately attracted the attention of the other players in the resurrection point. What is this boss doing? Does he really want to torture Quan? Qin Shujian's actions made them mistakenly think that the other party wanted to rush into the resurrection point to kill people, even if the players knew that they were invincible in the resurrection point. But after seeing Qin Shujian's actions, they still couldn't help but be nervous. Invincible was invincible, but it was hard to say if it also restricted the boss attacks. After all, no boss would attack the resurrection point, and no boss would be crazy enough to command his subordinates to directly surround the resurrection point to guard the corpse. So, it was hard to say. Standing in front of the green circle of light, Qin Shujian could clearly see a layer of almost transparent membrane. It was like a barrier that covered the entire resurrection point. Surround them. Don't let any of the mutants leave the range of the barrier. If a player dared to come out, he would kill one. If 2 players came out, he would kill a pair. Rumble. The ground trembled slightly, as if 10,000 beasts were galloping. Qin Shujian turned around and saw Ox Demon Lord leading hundreds of beasts over. Fort Master Qin, other than the mutants here, we have killed everyone else in the village. Ox Demon Lord reported the results of the battle even before he arrived. It could be seen. The Lord of the Demonic Ox Cave was in an excellent mood. It was no wonder that Ox Demon Lord acted this way. The mutants had been attacking the beasts of the Lion-Tiger Plain, and had even killed their way to the front of the Demon Ox Cave, which made him furious. But there was no end to the mutants. Furthermore, the village was guarded by experts. No matter how powerful the Demon Ox Cave was, they didn't dare to attack the village of the mutants. So Ox Demon Lord had been suppressing his anger. But every mutant who stepped into the territory of the Demon Ox Cave would be attacked fiercely. This was also the reason. This time, when the Cold Mountain Stronghold attacked the Novice Village, Ox Demon Lord would cooperate. On one hand, he was afraid of Qin Shujian and the strength of the Cold Mountain Stronghold. On the other hand, he wanted to get rid of the cancer-like mutants. Killed them all? Qin Shujian frowned and shifted his gaze back to the resurrection point. It was packed full of people, about 2,000 to 3,000, including the players who kept rushing out of the resurrection point. The number of people definitely wouldn't exceed 4,000. For 1,000 people. Actually, it wasn't a small number. But Qin Shujian was sure that the number of players who showed up from the beginning to the end was definitely more than 4,000. Could it be? His brows gradually knitted together. It seemed that there was only one explanation left, and that was, the resurrection point was full. When it was full, the players who had died couldn't be revived immediately. Only when the resurrection point was empty could the dead players be revived. He had this thought in his mind. Qin Shujian couldn't help but observe. After 3 to 5 minutes, he finally confirmed his guess. It seems that the players can't be revived without limit. If the resurrection point is full, then they can't revive any more players. Qin Shujian looked at the scene in front of him and didn't say anything. Ox Demon Lord had already returned to his original form and stood beside Qin Shujian in his human form. He asked, "Stronghold Master Qin, do you need my Demon Ox Cave's help to kill these mutants?" He didn't know why Qin Shujian had people surround the barrier and continuously kill these mutants. The fact that the mutants couldn't die wasn't a secret. As long as the mutant village's token was destroyed, then the mutant disaster on the Lion-Tiger Plains would naturally be resolved. However, in order to maintain a good relationship with the Cold Mountain Stronghold, Ox Demon Lord still wanted to show his care. No need. Qin Shujian straightforwardly rejected. What a joke. Only when his subordinates killed the players could he obtain a portion of the life source. If the Demon Ox Cave's monsters killed the players, then he wouldn't obtain any life source at all. Now that he could steadily farm players and harvest life sources, Qin Shujian didn't want anyone to come and take a share of the loot. Ox Demon Lord helplessly shook his head. All right then. Qin Shujian didn't have time to bother with him right now. Right now, his attention was on his own stats panel. There. Every time his life source jumped, it would be around 10 points. However, in just a short while, he had already obtained over 3,000 life sources. Moreover, this rising trend showed no signs of stopping. Only, when his life source reached 11,000, it suddenly stopped jumping. Qin Shujian immediately came back to his senses from the stats panel. When he looked around, there wasn't a single player rushing out of the resurrection point. He saw that within the resurrection point, the players' faces were ashen. They were no longer as excited as before. Suddenly, Qin Shujian ordered a bandit beside him. Attack this barrier. That bandit didn't hesitate. He immediately swung his sword at the barrier. With a bang, the bandit retreated. The almost transparent barrier didn't even ripple. It was as if it couldn't be shaken at all. Just as that bandit was about to attack again, Qin Shujian waved his hand and said, "Back down. No need to attack anymore." Yes. The bandit obeyed and retreated. Looking at the resurrection point in front of him, Qin Shujian's expression was indescribable. Looks like this barrier that protects the resurrection point is just a simple barrier. If this barrier is broken, then won't the players be at my mercy? Thinking of this, his eyes gradually turned cold. This way, Qin Shujian even thought that he could harvest life sources endlessly. When his life source reached 100,000, 1,000,000, 10 million, or even more, how high would his realm be? At that time, perhaps there really wouldn't be any players who could threaten him. Boom! 1,000 mountain blood was wrapped in a biting cold wind and heavily struck the barrier. Immediately after, a strong rebound force came. Qin Shujian held the long sword tightly. His feet were like iron hooks that tightly gripped the ground. At the same time, the mercury-like chi and blood in his body erupted. An even stronger force surged from his body. The rebounding force from the long saber was instantly dispersed by this force. Black Tiger Saber Technique. Fierce tiger descends the mountain. A black tiger that was several feet in size appeared in the air and finally gathered in the long sword. Qin Shujian's eyes were fierce. The terrifying force contained in 1,000 mountain blood poured out in torrents. In an instant, when the blade slashed, the air swept back like waves. This power, even through the protective barrier, the players could feel the threat of death. Under everyone's nervous gazes, Yizichin said, 1,000 mountain blood landed heavily on the barrier. Buzz. An invisible wave rippled with the two as the center. An even stronger rebound force came from the barrier. Through 1,000 mountain blood, it directly hit Qin Shujian. Whoosh! This time, Qin Shujian didn't take the rebound force head-on. Instead, he chose to retreat and dissipate the force. When his body stopped moving, he looked at the barrier again and found that it was still intact. Immediately, Qin Shujian didn't plan to attack the barrier again. That sword. He had already done his best. According to Qin Shujian's estimation, the barrier might not be able to be broken. Or it could be said that with the strength of basic martial arts, he wasn't qualified to break this barrier. Or else, with his current strength that far surpassed the average 10th stage basic martial arts, coupled with the 5th stage 1,000 mountain blood, how could there be no signs of breaking the barrier? Phew! When the other players saw this, they secretly sighed in relief. It was good that it couldn't be broken. As soon as this thought appeared in their minds, many of the players felt ashamed. When the players had already fallen to the point where they were surrounded by the boss in the resurrection point and had to worry about the boss rushing in. Could it be that the Inhumans are so weak that they don't even dare to resist? Qin Shujian sneered and mocked, trying to provoke the players' anger. In the end, many players rolled their eyes at him and replied with a hee-hee. That was it. Backbone? Of the players at the resurrection point, which one of them hadn't been killed at least 10 or 20 times? No matter how much backbone they had, they couldn't withstand such consumption. These players were resigned to their fate. Since they couldn't win, they might as well not fight. It was good to just stay at the resurrection point. Anyway, no one would resurrect when it was full, and there was no possibility of being squeezed out of the resurrection point. Seeing this, Qin Shujian tried his best to mock a few more times. Unfortunately, the players were stubborn. They didn't have any intention of rushing out to fight him with their lives. In the end, he had to give up the idea of continuing to farm for 1,000,000 or 800,000 points of life. Chapter 101. The players were holed up in the resurrection point. Qin Shujian couldn't do anything about it. For him now, the green barrier of the resurrection point was much harder than a turtle shell. It couldn't be broken at this stage. Since it couldn't be broken, Qin Shujian didn't want to waste any more time here. Watch them. He ordered Wang Taizhu and the other bandit hall masters beside him. After that, Qin Shujian left the resurrection point directly and walked towards the center of the village. Since there was no chance to farm for life sources, then he should get the core token as soon as possible. The matter of Lion-Tiger Plain could be considered to have come to an end for the time being. Qin Shujian left directly. Ox Demon Lord stood there awkwardly. They didn't greet him. He didn't know whether to leave or stay. Finally, Ox Demon Lord looked at the bandits surrounding the resurrection point. He chose to stay here to avoid going over and asking for trouble. On the other side, Niu Feng led a group of bandits and cleared all the players around the core token. The core token that belonged to Novice Village 51169 was currently floating in the air, shrouded in a faint halo. Outside the halo, the bandits were guarding there. Chief, all the players have been cleared. Niu Feng had a smile on his face when he saw the person who came. Qin Shujian nodded. Well done. Hee. Niu Feng smiled honestly. His body consciously made way for him. Qin Shujian walked directly into the halo. 10 minutes passed in the blink of an eye. You got Novice Village 51,169's core token. You can choose to destroy or absorb. Destroy. The core token will be converted into the corresponding life source. Novice Village 51169 will no longer exist. Absorb. You can get a part of the force's experience. The same message as before. But in the absorption option, there was no prompt to upgrade to a third-level force. From this, it could be seen. A Novice Village's core token was no longer enough to upgrade a second-level force. However, Qin Shujian didn't hesitate and chose to absorb it directly. In his opinion, even if he destroyed the token, he estimated that he would not be able to obtain much life force. Now that he already had more than 10,000 life force sources, he was not lacking anymore. You have absorbed Novice Village 51,169's core token. Shortly after, Novice Village 51,169's building collapsed with a loud bang. As the core token has been absorbed by the Liangshan Fort Master, Novice Village 51169 no longer exists. The players who originally belonged to Novice Village 51169 will be assigned to their respective villages. During the distribution period, you will be forced to go offline. Countdown, 5 seconds. At the same time, the players in the resurrection point received the system notification. Inexplicably, the players looked relieved. Compared to being surrounded and guarded by a group of elite NPCs, it was better to just give up. The moment all the players disappeared, the bandits of Cold Mountain Stronghold were no longer surprised. It was the Ox Demon Lord's first time seeing such a scene. He was slightly surprised, but he wasn't too surprised. At this moment, after absorbing the core token, Qin Shujian brought Niu Feng and the others to meet up with the other bandits. Fort Master Qin's cultivation is unparalleled. You killed the Inhumans in one fell swoop and solved the crisis of Lion-Tiger Plains. Everyone in Ox Demon Cave is grateful. Ox Demon Lord immediately went up and flattered him. These words, he often heard the exotic beasts under him say. So Ox Demon Lord was very familiar with these words. Killing mutants is our duty. The region of Mount Liang is often troubled by mutants. The reason why we were able to succeed so smoothly this time is all thanks to the help of the demonic Ox Cave. Qin Shujian smiled. Fort Master Qin is too polite. The Ox Demon Commander laughed out loud, but he found these words to be quite strange. Those who didn't know would think that Lion Tiger Plains was Cold Mountain Stronghold's territory. Ox Demon Cave was more like an external force. However, Ox Demon Lord didn't dare to argue about this matter. Cold Mountain Stronghold looked like they wanted to swallow him up from the start. If he didn't bring up the Chengyuan Trading Company in time, Ox Demon Cave would have followed in the footsteps of the Inhumans. So for this kind of big boss, he would do his best to serve him. As long as he didn't do anything to Ox Demon Cave, everything was fine. Now that the Inhumans problem has been solved, does Fort Master Qin want to come with me to Ox Demon Cave to rest? Ox Demon Lord asked probingly. Qin Shujian shook his head and said, "No, the demon disaster is wreaking havoc now. I have to go back and prevent the demon disaster from invading. Ox Demon Cave also has to pay attention to Lion Tiger Plains." Fort Master Qin, don't worry. It's fine if the demon disaster doesn't step out of Immortal Plains. If he dares to step out, he definitely won't be able to return. Ox Demon Lord wasn't afraid at all. Hearing this, Qin Shujian didn't say anything else. Since the Chengyuan Trading Company came to Ox Demon Cave, then he would give Gu Feng face. Moreover, Cold Mountain Stronghold's forces had been expanding too quickly recently. They needed some time to digest and convert all their gains into strength on the surface. So after reminding Ox Demon Lord, Qin Shujian directly said this and then left with the mountain bandits. Fort Master Qin, let me send you off. Ox Demon Lord followed closely behind. Qin Shujian didn't refuse. Then they saw a large number of ferocious and mutated beasts galloping across the vast plains. Both parties only stopped when they reached the border between the two places. Qin Shujian said, "Up ahead is Liang Mountain's boundary. Fort Master, please return." All right, Fort Master Qin is welcome to visit Ox Demon Cave at any time in the future. Ox Demon Lord also had a serious expression. You've received Ox Demon Cave's permission to enter and leave Lion Tiger Plains as you wish. When the man finished speaking, a system notification popped up in Qin Shujian's mind. Obviously, Ox Demon Lord directly gave Cold Mountain Stronghold permission to enter and leave as they wished in order to be on good terms with Cold Mountain Stronghold. Definitely. Qin Shujian nodded slightly. Ox Demon Lord's decision was actually a wise one. The difference in strength between both parties was obvious. Whether or not he gave them permission to enter and leave Lion Tiger Plains wouldn't cause any changes. If Cold Mountain Stronghold really wanted to attack Ox Demon Cave, whether there would be a notification, it wouldn't change the outcome. Very clearly, the Ox Demon Commander was aware of this. After seeing Qin Shujian and the others leave Lion Tiger Plains, Ox Demon Lord's anxious heart finally relaxed. He couldn't help but let out a huge sigh of relief. On the other side, Fort Master, why didn't we just destroy Ox Demon Cave directly? Niu Feng asked in confusion. He could tell. At first, Qin Shujian really did have the intention to attack Ox Demon Cave. It was only when he mentioned the Carrier Trading Company that he dismissed the idea. Niu Feng didn't know much about the Carrier Trading Company. He only had the chance to meet Gu Feng once at Cold Mountain Stronghold. Qin Shujian didn't say anything. Song Hong sneered. Fort Master naturally has his reasons for doing so. The Carrier Trading Company isn't as simple as you think. We can destroy Ox Demon Cave at any time. But if we offend the Carrier Trading Company, we have to weigh the pros and cons, although he wasn't sure how much information the Carrier Trading Company had. But Chaotic Gold Mountain's information network was much better than Mingai Mountain's. In addition to Gu Feng's arrival and Qin Shujian's attitude, he could infer that the Carrier Trading Company wasn't a force to be trifled with. Or else, given Fort Master's unyielding character, Ox Demon Cave didn't have a chance to speak from the beginning. After being ridiculed for no reason, Niu Feng was furious. He looked at Song Hong with eyes that seemed to be burning with anger. But, considering Gu Feng's strength, he suppressed his anger for the time being. They were both at the 8th level of the basic realm, but there were also differences in strength. But Niu Feng snorted coldly and glared at Zhang Hong. He gave Zhang Hong a look that said, "Just wait and see," and didn't say anything else. Qin Shujian naturally noticed their glances, but he didn't stop them. Within a force, it was inevitable that there would be some disputes. Right now, the demon disaster is wreaking havoc on the Undying Plains. Ox Demon Cave is a small matter, but the demon disaster is a big matter. Everything at present is to deal with the demon disaster. In the end, Qin Shujian explained. Currently, Chaotic Stone Forest, Cold Mountain Stronghold, and the Novice Village on Lion Tiger Plain had all been destroyed. All that was left was the vast, endless mountain range and the base of the Shining rebel army. He didn't plan to act yet. The endless mountain range was too mysterious. From the map Gu Feng gave him, it could be seen that the endless mountain range was a huge mountain range that ran through the 13 prefectures of Great Zhao. There were all kinds of terrifying existences within. With Cold Mountain Stronghold's current strength, they didn't have the ability to act wildly there. As for the Shining rebel army, previously, the information hall had sent a few bandits to investigate, but in the end, it was like a clay ox entering the sea. There was no news from them. Before he truly understood the situation of the Shining rebel army, Qin Shujian didn't plan to act against this force. Of course, the main reason was that Cold Mountain Stronghold's strength had increased too quickly. He needed to properly digest it. At this moment, when the Cold Mountain Stronghold bandits returned, a huge uproar occurred on the player forums. Unsurprisingly, the scene of the village siege on Lion Tiger Plain was still uploaded to the forums. Compared to the previous 2 videos of villages being attacked and exterminated, the commotion caused by the video this time was much greater. In the previous 2 sieges, Cold Mountain Stronghold displayed their absolute strength and directly took the core token. From beginning to end, they charged forward recklessly, killing the players without any resistance. But this time, Cold Mountain Stronghold and Ox Demon Cave didn't just charge forward recklessly. The Cold Mountain Stronghold chief, a famous boss, was even more tyrannical. He directly insta-killed the Novice Village chief. His strength shocked all the players. In the previous siege, although the Cold Mountain Stronghold chief was also extremely tyrannical, he wasn't able to insta-kill the strongest player in the Novice Village. Therefore, the change in Qin Shujian's strength shocked the players. Aside from this point, the scene that attracted the players' attention the most was the scene where the players surrounded the respawn point and directly camped the corpses. An NPC camped the players' corpses. To everyone, this sounded like something out of a fantasy story. But now, it was happening right in front of their eyes. Even the players from other Novice Villages. When they watched the video, they could almost feel the despair of the players from Novice Village 51169. Chapter 102. First comment, damn, this Liangshan Gang master is too ruthless. Second comment, Sha Quan is guarding the corpses. This is rubbing the faces of the players from Novice Village 51169 on the ground. Third comment, TSK. There was a lot of discussion on the forum. It was not strange for Sha Quan to guard the corpses to happen among the players. If it was spread on the forum, at most, it would be despised. However, NPCs guarding the corpses of players. This was the first time this happened. It had a completely different meaning. Apart from this matter, there was another matter that caused a heated discussion among the players. That was, the game was updated. It was not an offline update but a direct online update. There was no announcement before this, which was very abrupt. As for the update content, there were only 2. The player's respawn interval is 10 minutes. For every additional death on the day, the respawn interval will be extended by 10 minutes. The maximum duration will not exceed 1 hour. Remove the restriction on the respawn point. Players' respawn is no longer limited to the respawn point. They can respawn randomly in any public area in the Novice Village. These 2 updates. It directly made some players think of what happened in Novice Village 51169, especially the last one. It was more like a deliberate update to prevent NPCs from guarding the corpses. Logically speaking, this should be a good thing. However, the previous update seemed to be restricting the players. Before the update, there was almost no interval between players' respawn. In order to deal with monsters and bosses, many teams relied on this almost endless number of players to win. Now after the update, this advantage that he could take advantage of was gone in an instant. Under the increase and decrease, it was completely impossible to say whether this update was good or bad. However, there were some players who hated this update to the core. Immortal Plains, Novice Village 17561. When the update appeared, all the players' faces completely darkened. What's with the update? This is forcing us into a dead end. Damn it! Many players were angrily cursing. Now that the Immortal Plains had been conquered by the undead skeletons, only they were left here struggling at death's door. The reason why they could resist the demon disaster until now, it wasn't because of how strong they were, but because they were able to resurrect continuously, making full use of their advantage in numbers. Furthermore, the demonic disaster did not have a boss as powerful as the Cold Mountain Fort Master. Naturally, it was impossible for the demonic disaster to force its way into the beginner's village and wipe out the entire beginner's village. The foundation of all this. It was all because of the advantage of resurrection. But now that the game had been updated, the player's advantage of resurrection was instantly gone. How could they accept that? Why did the game update at this time? Chin Chun slashed an undead skeleton in front of him with 3 slashes and muttered to himself in shock. Beside him, they were Su Ziqing and Wu Quan. When the 3 of them released the undead evil lord, they were like grasshoppers tied to a rope. After a few days of fishing in troubled waters and killing skeletons, he had basically recovered his original level of 0. Su Ziqing's beautiful face turned pale and unsightly as she cried out involuntarily, "If that's the case, I'm afraid we won't be able to block the attacks of these skeletons." He couldn't block the attack. This meant that the mission had failed and the village had been destroyed. This loss could not be easily borne at any time. Chen Xian said seriously, "The source of the demonic disaster should be the thing that broke the seal in the valley. These skeletons are endless and it's not possible to kill them alone. Right now, the only way to solve the demonic disaster is to get rid of the source." "Wait, there's a boss." Wu Quan directly interrupted Chen Chen's words and pointed to the front. Hearing this, Chen Shun and Su Ziqing looked in the direction he pointed. There, a skeleton wrapped in bone armor with only the red flames in its eye sockets left. It was riding on a skeleton horse burning with white flames and holding a bone spear in its hand, exuding an intimidating aura. The surrounding undead skeletons didn't dare to approach and consciously circled around this skeleton knight. Chun Chun reacted immediately. "Let's go." There were many undead skeletons around, and now there was a suspected boss monster. It was completely impossible for the 3 of them to deal with it. As soon as he finished speaking, Su Ziqing and Wu Quan also immediately withdrew. However, they ran fast, but the skeleton knight was even faster. The bone horse moved silently, and the white flames fell on the ground, burning everything it touched. The skeleton knight held the bone spear and rushed forward in an instant. At the same time, a large number of skeleton knights appeared on the Immortal Plane and appeared in the battlefield where the players were fighting. These skeleton knights were extremely fast and powerful. The weakest ones were only at the 6th level of the martial arts realm, and the strongest ones had even reached the 8th level of the martial arts realm. For the players at this stage, they were almost at the level of elite monsters and boss monsters. It was already difficult enough to deal with the undead skeletons. Now that there were skeleton knights of a higher realm, the players suddenly showed a one-sided situation. In the valley, the undead demon lord sat on the throne of bones. At this time, the aura on his body had become stronger than when he had just broken the seal. Not enough, far from enough. If I want to recover, I need more power. The blue flames in the undead demon lord's eye sockets danced. He drove the undead skeletons to slaughter the creatures in the Immortal Plane, to plunder enough energy for him to recover from his previous injuries. However, the creatures in an underworld were limited, and the undead demon lord was also not an ordinary expert. Even if he slaughtered all the creatures in an underworld, he would still be far from recovering to his peak state. For the undead demon lord, an immortal plane, or even the entire ordinary realm, was an existence that he could destroy with a wave of his hand. If it wasn't for the fact that he was worried about the experts outside of the ordinary realm and his injuries were too serious, he would have led the undead army to rush out of the ordinary realm and march to this side of the world. Why would he still need to invade one realm after another? All of a sudden, the black and red fog surged and the last mirror made of bones directly appeared in front of the undead demon lord. On the black mirror, many undead skeletons and skeleton knights appeared, and the ones fighting with the undead skeletons and skeleton knights were the players from the beginner village, facing the skeleton knights that suddenly appeared, although the players were retreating. However, with the number of players, they were still not defeated and were barely able to withstand the attack. Inhumans are really a magical race. The undead demon lord looked at the players in the mirror and a hoarse voice came from behind the bone armor mask. Unfortunately, any race is weak in front of the evil demon race. After that, the undead demon lord suddenly stood up from the skeleton throne and the black and red fog trembled crazily. Immediately after, his withered fingers were stained with blood as he carved in the void before his eyes. Streaks of mysterious veined patterns emerged from within and were arranged in a regular pattern. More than 10 minutes later, the undead demon lord retracted his fingers and saw the lines in the void in front of him converging. As if it had triggered some strange energy, the blood light suddenly shone brightly. Soon after, a blood-red halo of light that was 3 feet tall appeared. The undead demon lord pulled out the bone sword from the skeleton throne and then stepped directly into the bloodlight circle. Beginner Village 17561. On the battlefield where the players and the undead skeletons were fighting, a blood-red halo suddenly appeared. Then a terrifying, evil aura overflowed from it. All the skeletons seemed to have been stimulated at this time, and their attacks suddenly became more violent. What is this thing? Some players looked at this strange scene and their faces were full of shock. Now that the demon disaster was raging, every uncontrollable change could touch their nerves. In the blood-light circle, a skeleton covered in bone armor with blue flames burning in its eye sockets and holding a bone sword stepped out. Immediately, the black and red fog instantly covered the sky, as if darkness had arrived.
Boss.
Big boss. The moment they saw the undead demon lord appear, this thought appeared in the minds of all the players who saw it. On the opponent's body, they felt an endless pressure, as well as an extremely terrifying evil aura. This was something that all the undead skeletons and even the skeleton knights did not have. The other party stood there as if he was a natural king. The players couldn't help but want to worship and prostrate themselves. Suddenly, some players woke up and hurriedly shouted, "A big boss has appeared. Everyone be careful. This boss is not simple. Pay attention to intercept." The players' camp immediately moved. The remaining high-level players all rushed towards the skeleton boss that appeared in the bloodlight circle. The undead demon lord stood in place and quietly looked at the players' nervous movements. The blue flames in its eye sockets kept jumping. "I am the undead demon lord," a hoarse and low voice echoed in everyone's ears. Then the undead demon lord raised the bone sword in its hand. "Any existence that goes against me will be embraced by the abyss of death." On the bone sword, the dark red flames burned wildly. Looking at the undead demon lord's actions, the conscious players suddenly shouted, "The boss is going to use a big move, interrupt him." Although they had never seen a boss that used a big move as soon as it appeared, but it didn't stop them from wanting to interrupt the boss's big move. Suddenly, some players who rushed to the front of the undead demon lord had already launched attacks in their hands. Evil Spirit Slash. The blue flames in the undead demon lord's eye sockets seemed to reflect the appearance of the players. The bone sword in its hand slashed down. Boom! The dark red flames erupted in an instant. A condensed blood arc burst out from the bone sword. In an instant, it became several feet in size. Like a flowing light blade, with a speed that was almost invisible to the naked eye, it directly swept past the players in front of it and rushed to the battlefield behind them. All the existence that touched the blood-colored blade light, whether it was players or undead skeletons, all exploded at this moment. Immediately after, the bloody mist that exploded instantly fused with the blood-colored blade light, causing it to become even more powerful. Moreover, it continued to slash forward without stopping. Rumble. Chapter 103. The blood-red blade light dissipated. There were dozens of gullies on the ground, with the undead evil lord as the starting point, all the way into the novice village. Within this range, whether it was the players, the undead skeletons, or the skeleton knights, they all disappeared. The remaining players were stunned on the spot. A big move killed 90% of the players on the field. In other words, thousands of players were all sent back to revive under this sword. How could they fight this? The two sides were not on the same level at all. Is this really a boss of the 10th stage of the martial arts? Some players moaned helplessly in their hearts. In the ordinary realm, how could there be such a terrifying existence? Didn't they agree? Everyone in the ordinary realm was considered a novice character. Was there no existence beyond the 10th stage of the martial arts? All of a sudden, the remaining players looked at the terrifying undead evil lord and once again felt the deep malice of this game. The blue flames in the undead evil lord's eyes jumped. His hoarse voice was filled with evil. Go kill. Immediately, those undead skeletons and skeleton knights that had stopped because of the undead evil lord's power once again attacked the players. This time, with the undead evil lord in charge, the remaining players were almost unable to raise the slightest storm. More than 13,000 life sources. Can it break the shackles of the ordinary realm? Qin Shujian looked at the life sources on the status panel and suddenly had the illusion of a nouveau riche. It could be said, this trip to the Lion-Tiger Plain, although they did not take down the Ox-Demon Cave, but they indirectly destroyed a novice village, the harvest was not small. Especially the acquisition of life sources, it was divided by the realm. The higher the realm, the more life sources they contributed. The players in the novice village, 51169, were generally around the 4th stage of the martial arts, and there was no lack of 6th stage of the martial arts. This kind of strength was naturally not easy to deal with, but correspondingly, the amount of life sources they contributed was also very high. This time, the attack on the village directly caused the life sources to break through 5 digits. 5 digits of life sources. On the status panel, behind all the skills, there was a deduced plus sign, including the Black Tiger Saber technique that had not made any moves. Qin Shujian looked at his own status. His expression was somewhat uncertain. The further he went on the 10th stage of the martial arts, the more he could feel some kind of restriction, suppressing his path forward. This kind of restriction. This was the shackles of the ordinary realm. If he wanted to break free of this restriction, he would either have to leave the ordinary realm or rely on his own strength to break free. Qin Shujian had always taken the second path. 3 10th level cultivation techniques have already raised my strength to the limit of my current realm. If I go any further, I'm afraid there's a risk of my body exploding. He didn't forget the changes his body underwent when he raised the tiger subduing body tempering art to the 10th level during the attack on the village. That was a sign of reaching a limit. Even though his physical body was slowly improving under the nourishment of his abundant blood and qi, this kind of improvement could only be described as extremely slow when he reached the limit of the ordinary realm. Until now, he could only barely allow his body to contain the powerful qi and blood force so that he would not lose control again. If he continued to increase the level of his cultivation, the accumulated power would very likely exceed the limits of his body. The consequences of exceeding the limit were simple. Qin Shujian shook his head as he imagined his body exploding with a bang and blood splattering everywhere. He was still young. He didn't have any plans to die young. But as his mind fell on the 10th level of the body tempering art, Qin Shujian once again felt the danger from the unseen world. Even if the danger this time was lower than before. But it also meant that there was still a certain distance between him and the ordinary realm. In terms of cultivation techniques, there's no room for improvement. If I forcefully increase other cultivation techniques, the result would be my body exploding. But if I forcefully break through, I may encounter the danger of death. As expected, The ordinary realm's shackles aren't that easy to break. Qin Shujian helplessly shook his head. He suddenly felt somewhat puzzled. How did those people who broke through the ordinary realm's shackles and became the domain lord do it? One had to know that his current strength had already reached the limit of the 10th level of the martial realm. If he went any further, his body would explode and he would die. It couldn't be that those people who broke through the ordinary realm's shackles could go further than him. Qin Shujian's face was somewhat melancholy. Looking at the 10,000 points of life source, he felt that it wasn't that good anymore. After hesitating for a long time, he temporarily gave up on the idea of breaking through the ordinary realm's shackles. It wasn't that he didn't dare to face the unseen danger, but now wasn't the best time. According to the things that Gu Feng gave him, once the ordinary realm's shackles were broken, then the entire ordinary realm would be upgraded. This way, the 10th level of the martial realm would no longer be the limit. Qin Shujian didn't forget that next door there was an evil demon that broke through the shackles. Now that there was the suppression of the ordinary realm shackles, the evil demon might only be at the 10th level of the martial realm. But without the suppression of the shackles, the evil demon's cultivation might directly skyrocket. Forget it. Let's first deal with the demon disaster, and then think about the ordinary realm shackles. Qin Shujian put down the impulse in his heart, and his gaze fell on the black tiger saber technique. This cultivation technique that allowed him to reach the one with the world level had always been of great help to him. The reason why he was able to surpass others in the 10th level of the martial realm was because of the 3 10th level cultivation techniques and the help given by the black tiger saber technique. Qin Shujian once thought that the one with the world level was the limit of this cultivation technique, but now it seemed this cultivation technique hadn't reached the limit yet. The reason why he didn't have the chance to deduce before was because he didn't have enough life source. Glancing at the 5-digit life source, Qin Shujian directly waved his hand. Anyway, he had more life source than he could use. Rather than wasting it, he might as well convert it into his own strength as much as possible. Maybe the next level of the black tiger saber technique could increase his chances of breaking through the ordinary realm shackles. Upgrade. Following Qin Shujian's thought, suddenly, he saw the life source quickly decrease at the speed of flowing water. At the same time, Qin Shujian only felt his vision go black. In the next moment, he saw himself appear in a lonely void. There, it was as if countless flowing lights were flying. In his eyes, these flowing lights were the complete black tiger saber technique. Fierce tiger descends the mountain, shocking 100 miles. Fierce tiger turns around. The 318 moves of the black tiger saber technique appeared one by one in front of Qin Shujian and then slowly disappeared. Roar! In the sky above the cold mountain village, the shadow of a black tiger suddenly appeared. It opened its mouth and roared. The roar traveled 100 miles and intimidated all the beasts to lie still. In the lion-tiger plain, the ox demon lord woke up from his deep sleep. In his bell-sized eyes, there was a look of panic. In that moment just now, he felt a great power that made his mind tremble. But this power came quickly and disappeared quickly, making the ox demon lord mistakenly think that he had a nightmare. The panic in his bell-sized eyes gradually disappeared and turned into some doubts. Finally, he closed them again. Heavy snoring could be heard once again. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.